He needs 270 to win.
Kamala Harris trails on 182.
Very confident. I have felt. We went in with a very big lead today, and it looks like Republicans have shown up in force.
Votes out here. Gotta talk to voters.
All right, everybody, come.
Caroline.
Well, while you've been sleeping, the results have been rolling in, and we are expected to announce a winner by 9 o'clock this morning.
Live right here on Breakfast.
Well, joyous. I mean, this is the most incredible political comeback in any of our lifetimes.
Nigel Farage speaking there, and we're going to hear from him, and he's going to be in Florida, where he is with Donald Trump and close ally Elon Musk at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, we've been looking at the map across the evening, but it's these 7 states that we need to look at most crucially. And 2 of these 7 states have been declared, both Georgia and North Carolina, for Donald Trump. We're still waiting on some of the others. It looks like Pennsylvania's going Donald Trump's way. Could that be the next to declare?
Well, what does this mean here in the UK? We'll be bringing you all the latest reaction, plus your thoughts and opinions.
Plenty of mist and murk around this morning. Is it going to stick around all day, or...?
Right now, as you can imagine, lots of things happening throughout the night, and right now history is being made as we edge closer to finding out the next president of the USA.
It's 6:02. I'm Isabel Webster.
I'm Eamonn Holmes. Got a lot of activity, a lot of company in the studio this morning. Joining us, CEO and founder of Electoral Calculus, Martin Baxter. Good morning, Martin. And Chairman of Republicans Overseas, Greg Swenson, is here. And we reckon maybe you're a happy man.
Good mood, really good mood. Things are great.
Are you cautiously optimistic, or
I'm getting toward absolutely optimistic. I was cautious an hour ago, but the numbers keep coming in, and I'm feeling really great.
And we've got Dr. Thomas Gift here, founding director, UCL Centre on US Politics.
So whilst we are live on air, we're getting lots more of those states coming through, confirming which way they're going. We've heard in the last few moments that New Mexico has gone to Kamala Harris, as was predicted. But it's all those swing states that are obviously all eyes are on this morning. 7 of them will decide the fate of this election. We have already got the result in for one of those, North Carolina, which was held by Trump. But we are expecting an upset in Georgia. It was taken by Biden in 2020 from Trump. It looks, although it hasn't yet been declared, in fact, I'm getting the nod, it has now been declared, also having swung back to the Republicans. So that's 2 now crucial of those swing states. So let's get that reaction from Greg Swenson from Republicans Overseas. And look, as you say, it was a difficult year 4 years ago for you, and it's taken a while for you to accept that this is looking like this is the Red Sea you've been waiting for.
Yeah, we thought we'd have that in the midterms in 22, and the Democrats did a great job of ballot harvesting and get out the vote. They have a much bigger ground game. We played catch-up on that, but it worked, and we closed the gap on early voting and mail-in voting.
Right, floor manager.
Embraced it. So things are really going well. And I think that it showed in the results today. So, yeah, fantastic day for Republicans, great day for President Trump, and a great day for all of us. What's
really interesting when you look at the figures and all of this, and as I say, nothing's been declared yet. Yep. Things can change, and as we know, the Electoral College votes are quite strange in terms of the numbers that can suddenly shift those tallies up. But at the moment, 246 for Trump, 187 for Harris. He's getting ever closer to that crucial 270 number. But also interestingly, and unlike his previous win when he beat Hillary Clinton, he is also leading significantly in the popular vote as well. At this point, it looks as though he could be doing better not only in the popular vote, but the Electoral College. It's amazing. And he was, on a couple of occasions recently, he was leading in the polls on the national vote. So I'm not shocked, but, that's usually something that most pundits were expecting an Electoral College win for Trump, but not the popular vote. So you make a great point. I think that's going to really help not only President Trump, but help the country. It doesn't mean anything
technically, but it does mean something philosophically. And I think it's really great to win the popular vote. It just puts a little wind at his back, and I think it'll be great.
Let's bring Martin and Dr. Gift in here, but he's winning the popular vote. How? Why is he winning the popular vote? Because that's not what the predictions were saying.
Well, polling has always been difficult in America. It's hard to be exact. But the results we're seeing come in of the actual votes, Trump is leading in these 7 crucial swing states, which, remember, the last 2 elections, 6 out of 7 of those seats voted for the winner. So they're quite a good predictor, and in fact, you need them to win. So Trump has got North Carolina, he's got Georgia, Pennsylvania, I'm just looking at the figures.
But Martin, why was there no indication of that at all with the predictive vote?
Well, the polls are, it's hard. I've done some polling in the US. It's difficult to get what they call a national representative sample because many Republicans are less keen on taking part in polls than Democrats, so it gets a bit skewed, and adjusting for that becomes a little bit of an art rather than a science. So it's hard to be precise. I think 24 hours ago, if you remember, nobody knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And although lots of people are going to be wise after the event, let's remember that nobody knew. Now we're beginning to find out what the American people say. But it is still fairly close because...
Yeah. Martin, any major surprise for you? Are you taken aback by what you're seeing, what is developing here?
So I think it's clear. It's more for Trump than it was in 2020, but equally we remember from 2020 that we got a surprise that it looked like Trump was ahead, and then that faded as late votes came in.
Let's get the thoughts of Dr. Thomas Gift in all of this. Do you share that caution then that there could still be a surprise in the road, or do you think that this is clearly a home run for the Trump camp?
Well, the odds are looking more and more like this is not just a home run for the Trump camp, but a grand slam for the Trump camp. I mean, you can't look at the data any other way. Again, with all the usual caveats, Trump is either winning or tied in every single swing state. Right now, this is best case scenario.
What's so, I suppose, unique about American politics is, you know, it's defined as this divided democracy, isn't it? You have a country where in every election there is always a significant proportion of the population who are massively disappointed. It is always 52-48, that close often, isn't it? So, you know, what happens? How does the country come back together after what has been one of the bitterest election campaigns that I can remember?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that a president can't heal polarization on his own.
They can set a tone?
They can set a tone, although Biden tried to do this at his inauguration, promised to bring the country together. I think you could argue that at this point, the country has never been more polarized. With that said, I do think that it's possible that some in the media particularly tend to overstate the extent to which Americans are really fractured on some key issues. A lot of them hold relatively moderate positions, even on some hot-button issues like abortion or immigration.
Well, that's why I want to bring Greg Swenson on this, because we've talked to you lots over the last few years, and my memory is long enough to remember that you weren't filled with enthusiasm about Trump winning the candidacy. Yeah. And, you know, you've put your full weight behind him, as Republicans clearly have tonight. Sure. Would you have preferred somebody else? Did it have to be the Donald?
No, there was a moment, first of all, being a bit transactional about it. After the January 2021, I just thought, Trump, there's no way he can come back from this. I was wrong about that, that's for sure. But I didn't think he could come back, so I thought, what a good moment to pass it on to a new generation, to get someone in their 40s or 50s in the seat as a nominee. And I argued that pretty, I thought it was a good idea, let's put it that way. Once the indictments started and Trump got a big bump from the indictments, it backfired on the Democrats or they actually wanted Trump to be the nominee, so they kept going with the indictments. That really uplifted, that really gave Trump a huge uplift, and he's been riding it ever since.
But there was a sort of nervousness, I sensed anyway, from sort of conservatives about the fact that he's a convicted felon. People didn't like the fact that he had all of these legal cases stacked up against him. And, one of the first acts that we believe he will do this week will be to sack the prosecutor who's going after him in a number of other cases. That was sitting uneasily with a number of Republicans, but not enough to have taken this from him.
the polling, I don't know what the numbers are today, but the polling was about 8% of Republicans. So you always had that 5% of never Trumpers, and then you added that after Jan 6. And I was wondering, is that going to be 15 or 20? You remember Nikki Haley was getting 20% of the vote in primaries, and even after she dropped out.
Isabel's talking about frustrating this prosecutor. There are a lot of people who will want this prosecutor frustrated.
Yeah, look, I hope there's no retribution. I just thought it was ironic or hypocritical that the Democrats were campaigning in recent weeks saying, "Oh, Trump's going to, prosecute his political opponents." That's really funny coming from the Democrats who just spent the last year and a half doing exactly that. So, look, I hope everything gets dialed down a little bit, lower the tone. Just try to de-escalate.
Thomas and Martin, what do you make of Kamala Harris saying she's not going to address her supporters in the next 12 hours or so? That sounds like defeat to me.
It doesn't sound like a sign of strength, does it?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the problems that Kamala Harris has had, and I think in retrospect, is that she lacked a mandate through the primary process, that she was parachuted in by the party at a late stage. And I think that's given her headwinds. I think it's possible if the Democrats had, if Joe Biden, say, had decided to retire earlier and they'd had a proper primary process and picked a strong candidate, it might have been a different result tonight, because it is quite a close result even now. And it could have been different for the Democrats if they'd done things differently. And they will reflect on that.
Is there any path back to power or into power for Kamala Harris at this stage? And if so, what is it when we're looking at the sort of map of the United States of America? How could she possibly even be in this race still? Because it hasn't been declared.
Well, look at, say, some numbers. In Pennsylvania, Trump's about 200,000 votes ahead. There's about 400,000 plus votes to be counted. If those mostly break for Harris, then she wins Pennsylvania. Okay. And that's exactly what happened in 2020.
Right.
Those late votes did break very heavily for Biden.
And we should point out that Pennsylvania has the highest number of electoral college votes of all of the swing states.
It's sort of in the middle of the swing. It's not quite, but if you win Pennsylvania, then you're much more likely to win the election overall.
I'm just wondering what your assessment is at this point of how far you think things are going to go, not just in terms of the presidential candidates, but in terms of Congress as well. What's the picture this morning?
Well, of course, Congress is big because this will ultimately determine whether Trump, if he is elected, is able to push through his legislative agenda. Senate looks good for Republicans. House has always looked good for Republicans. The GOP will not have the 60 votes required to overcome the filibuster, so there are still constraints on the extent to which Trump and his allies could kind of muscle through these legislative achievements. But still, much better news. Also, there will be just a lack of investigations for Trump, which, of course, consumed an enormous amount of time during his first administration.
And just for people who don't necessarily study or follow American politics closely, just explain how Congress became a problem for Biden, particularly after the midterms, because he had that majority to get his legislation through pre-midterms. That was lost, and he's effectively had hardly any legislation passing through in the last year or so, has he?
Absolutely. I mean, you really need unified governance in Capitol Hill to get through anything remotely resembling sort of a legislative agenda. Joe Biden has not been able to do that since the midterms, certainly. So sort of that lack of unification is a challenge.
Lots of talk about abortion during the election campaign, and it was sort of predicted in many quarters that women were going to win this for Kamala Harris. It doesn't look as though that's happened. There's also been talk about, and it's a phrase I really don't love, the bro vote. And reports of Barron Trump having advised his father on where he should go for podcasts to try and reach out to those younger male voters. That seems to have happened rather than the female vote.
No, well, everybody forgets, I don't know, Greg may have a view on this, the Latino female vote, I mean, very massively pro-Catholic and therefore massively pro-life.
Yeah, look, there are a lot of pro-life women in America. Most of them are Republicans. And I think the Democrats just went too big on an issue that wasn't ranking in the top three. And they elevated it. They tried to make it an issue. But I think a lot of people were turned off by that. And women care about other things. Megyn Kelly last night, I thought, did a great closing argument for Trump and talked about how women are really concerned with the border crisis because their daughters are victims of crime from illegal migrants. That's a big issue. And then you have education and school choice. You have, men playing in women's sports and girls' sports, private spaces for women. Inflation. I mean, that really hurts suburban mothers who are trying to raise a family, and whether they're single moms or married, but they're running the household in many ways. So, there are other issues but besides abortion. And I think the other problem with leaning on just one issue and trying to win an election with it is it's a smaller demographic. It's basically single women that they were trying to win big. They did win it, I'm sure, but that's just that's 1/4 of the electorate. That's not enough.
Yeah, let's bring in some flavour from the USA live across to Washington now, and somebody is going to. I can't hear Stephen. Who? Stephen Edgington is the GBNews US correspondent. Let's hear from him. Stephen, good morning.
Good morning. I just came from a watch party in Washington, D.C. with lots of Democrats. The mood is absolutely abysmal. People are incredibly upset. I saw people leaving in droves from the Kamala Harris event in Washington, D.C. She was holding a big celebratory watch party, ready to give her acceptance speech, ready to congratulate her supporters, and she won't be making that speech tonight. She's going to apparently be making a speech tomorrow. As I said, many, many people leaving that event, a lot of sad faces here in Washington among the Democrats.
I'm just hearing in the last few moments it's being predicted that Republicans are flipping control of the Senate. This is, more bad news for the Democrats this morning.
Yeah, it looks like the Republicans have definitely taken control of the Senate, and they may even have a fairly wide margin. It could be 53, 54 Republican seats in the 100-seat chamber, and that would be important. If the Republicans, if Donald Trump wants to appoint a series of judges and other cabinet appointees, he has to go through the Senate. And if he has a significant sort of margin of error there, he will be able to appoint all the people that he wants to appoint. There are a few moderate Republicans who could block some appointments. So the Senate is absolutely key. We're not so sure about the House. The Democrats could still win the House, but certainly the White House and the Senate looks very, very positive for the Republicans tonight. And it's been an interesting journey watching Democrats here in DC. I've been interviewing some of them throughout the night for other GBNews viewers who've been watching. The mood has turned from excitement, perhaps even jubilation, thinking that Kamala has got this in the bag, to, frankly, depression, bitterness, absolute sadness at their candidate likely losing the election this year. It reminds me, actually, of 2016, when so many Hillary Clinton supporters thought that their candidate would win. They thought, and again, many British commentators have said, how could Donald Trump win this election? But it looks like that he has. And I think that this kind of arrogance almost from so many people, on the Democratic side, I think there's some people got complacent. That has really been sort of burst tonight. That bubble has been burst. And I think there is a real shock coming across the Democratic Party tonight. It is absolutely spreading, and people are very unhappy.
Well, Stephen, hold that thought, and we'll develop that more throughout the programme today as you reflect that back to us. For the moment, live from Washington, thank you very much indeed. And we'll look at what's in the air here over the UK. It's a Republican wind is blowing. Let's go to Aidan McGivern.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a misty and some places foggy start to the day, and it stays grey and gloomy for most of us, but northern Scotland faring well for any brighter or perhaps sunnier spells heading into the afternoon. Also a few cloud breaks here and there, North Wales, Northern England, likely to see them come and go. But for much of the UK, it's low cloud, it's mist, and in some places fog lasting all day. Where the fog does last all day, it's going to feel cold. But where we get some brighter spells, particularly northern Scotland, there's the potential for temperatures up to mid or even high teens. So it's a pleasant afternoon for northern Scotland, some decent sunny skies, and it's going to feel warm in the sunshine as the wind moves over the mountains and comes down on the other side, warmer and drier. Across the mountains, though, a lot of low cloud, mist, fog, drizzle. Some drizzle as well for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, West Wales. 1 or 2 spots for the south coast. However, for the vast majority, we've got relatively benign, slow-moving weather patterns in place at the moment. High pressure sitting to the east, a southerly airflow. That's going to pick up some strength overnight, and it will certainly be blustery for western Scotland. And it's going to turn increasingly damp in the far west across parts of Northern Ireland later. But for many, it's another quiet one as we start off Thursday. Once again, it's low cloud, mist and fog from the word go. Some tricky driving conditions in the south, for example, where we've got some stubborn fog patches. And the sun being weak at this time of year means that the fog will be slow to clear, and in some places it could last all day. Best place for sunshine, once again, northern Scotland. Also the best place for warmth, 16, 17 Celsius possible here, 13 or 14 elsewhere.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
So, quite good vibes for Donald Trump. Nothing confirmed as yet, early days, and still to come.
Yes, that red wave looks as though it is spreading across the United States of America. All important electoral college votes. We have 246 for Trump, 187 for Harris. Of course, you'll be aware he needs 270. He's not far off. All eyes on Pennsylvania. 400,000 votes still to be counted there. Could that swing it for Kamala Harris? Looks unlikely. We'll have all the latest after this quick break, and we'll be speaking to Donald Trump's friend and economist, Roger Gewell.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe. Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I want to bring in Roger Gewald now, who is a geopolitics expert on all of this, and he's obsessed with the bookmakers and how they're looking at 6:26 this morning.
Well, polling is one thing. You talk to a stranger on the phone, you hang up, you change your mind 3 minutes later. What big deal? Bookies, you've got your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I think we have the best bookies in the world here in Britain. And there are, I guess I shouldn't name the one I use, but there are a few aggregators. What they do is they take all the bookies and all their odds and they publish kind of a weighted average or a mean average. So whilst the polls until a short while ago were showing a very tight race and some of them showing Kamala in the lead, the bookies have been showing, since days now, Trump very much in a big lead. And at the moment, he is odds on at 2-9. Now, for people who don't bet, what that means is odds on means the odds are so much in your favor that you don't even get your bet back. So you bet 9 quid and you get 11 quid back. You make 2 quid. That's odds on. So Trump is odds on at 2-9. Kamala has moved to 50-1.
Wow.
So if you bet £1, you get 50 quid back. But while I've been looking at you, it's just moved to 80.
Okay. Says it all, really.
Says it all.
Money where
Says it all.
We caught up with Farage, who is at Mar-a-Lago, a place you know well.
Yeah.
He is waiting and watching those results with possibly the next president of the United States. He was sort of calling it about an hour ago, but certainly the Trump camp now feeling very confident. Certain news agencies, Reuters, for example, this morning now projecting that he will be the final winner, taking Pennsylvania, the all-important swing state.
Yeah.
We haven't yet called that here, but that is certainly the direction of travel this morning.
And it's so fast, Isabel. I was broadcasting in the middle of the night in another continent, Australia, and I was saying it is so close. People are calling it so close. It could go either way. It's just moved like a shot from there. Each side in the middle of the night last night was saying, we've got this. And to change from that to this is really... This is the most exciting election I've ever seen, and there's so much at stake, and the outcomes, depending on who elected for all of us and the world, are so radically different that it's really quite an exciting time to be alive.
But, Roger, it does surprise me because, let's face it, Kamala Harris was an unknown, untested, and suddenly, I mean, initially, Trump had a big lead over her, and then she was neck and neck, and then she was ahead. And that surprised me at the time.
Well, I mean, why don't people listen to guys like me and you? We've both been saying this for a long time. Here's somebody that no one would endorse, didn't win the primary, nobody wanted. I mean, the height of cynicism was Obama coming out with his wife and making that speech about how wonderful she was. They had to stand Biden down because he didn't work anymore. The body didn't move. So they stood him down, and instead of a vote and all of the, very much like our 3 unelected prime ministers here, all those people, Gavin Newsom and the rest, they didn't get to consider them. They just shoved her in and thought they could make a Hollywood star out of her out of night. And of course, her appeal has been emotional. Abortion, elementary school truancy, the fact that she's black, a woman, and Asian, none of these things has anything to do with being president of the United States and protecting us against Putin, China, and everything else that challenges us.
I mean, at the end of the day, is the American electorate so basic? That's not a criticism, that it matters more about how much a gallon of fuel is in their car tank than the issues that you mentioned there?
No, I think what it is, I just want to look at this one document here. I think what it is the kind of voters that Harris appealed to. An exit poll came out with these numbers. On the state of democracy, whatever in the world that actually means, Trump's supporters voted, only 17% cared about that, but 81%, that was the most important thing to them. The economy, 78% of Trump people went for that. That was the deciding factor. Only 20% of Kamala's supporters cared about the economy. Abortion, 23% Trump, 77% of Kamala's people. And get this, immigration, 90% Trump and 9% Kamala. And foreign policy, 54 Trump, 39 Kamala. Kamala's people seem to me to have taken a very superficial and emotional view of things, and we're backing issues. The state of democracy. I mean, what is that even, you know? What does that mean?
What is a Trump presidency going to mean for Britain? We've got a Labour government in at the moment. David Lammy has called Trump all sorts of names.
David Lamentable is going to be the first to go.
That being said, they have definitely been reaching out. They've tried to have meetings, haven't they, over in the States? They've obviously seen something in the air. You know, can they work together? Is this good for Britain, or is this, you know, disaster for us over here?
Trump has more resilience than anybody I've ever seen.
I'm sure Trump does. What about the Brits?
And but he also has a great deal of grace and charm. Anybody who spends 5 minutes with him can't help but feel that. I think he will find a way to build a bridge. If he can build a bridge with Kim Jong-un, he can certainly build one with David Lamentable. I think Lamentable will probably have to go. He really is not doing a very good job and is now upset what, you know, probably is the president of the United States, which isn't clever. But I think he'll build bridges even with Starmer. And I think, personally think, and a lot of it is hope, that he will do something to temper, to dampen down this runaway socialist train that we are now all on in this country. Enough people not having voted so that we handed a landslide with 20% to Labour and are now, a lot of us, regretting it.
You talk about North Korea. People have been sort of talking about what a Trump presidency could mean, not just for us here in the UK, but for the world. And, of course, that has a knock-on for us in the UK.
Sure.
Obviously, Trump's courted controversy, saying things about funding for NATO, but also ceding ground to Russia by Ukraine. Ukrainians will be very interested in what's happened overnight. You know, how do you see the world changing at all under Trump?
I think that from a foreign policy standpoint, I think he will be able to bring some kind of resolution in the Middle East. Also in Ukraine, I think that there's a growing body of people that feel that money is just being thrown away on Ukraine. They're not going to be able to win the war. It's more of an exercise in other things than it is in defeating Putin, because that's not going to happen. And I think he'll be instrumental, and I think he'll be very good for the world and bring some common sense to the wokeness and crazy decisions that have been made in some areas.
We're just looking at live pictures at the moment coming in from Trump HQ, which is in West Palm Beach. Lots of very happy-looking MAGA supporters. And we're told that President Trump will be making a speech imminently. And obviously, I assume in that speech he will be making the assumption that he has won the 47th presidency of the United States of America. What else do you think we expect to hear from him in that speech? He likes to go early. He did that previously. You know, does he give us a sort of indication on how he might have changed as a president? Do you think it will be quite conciliatory? Do you think it will be outspoken? You know, what can we expect when we next see Trump?
Well, I think his speech, I mean, you're quite right. He does this habitually, and it's a good strategic tactic for somebody who knows what he's doing. He ran The Apprentice for all those decades. But as I emailed all the producers here many hours ago, my intel from the party at Mar-a-Lago was that this year we are going to hear results much earlier than usual. So he may even be a bit stronger about that. I think that he'll probably be tempered in his approach because he's seen Kamala lose a lot of ground, hasn't he, in the last few days by attacking him, by attacking Trump. It was a mistake for her to do that. It's cost her, I think, a bit. So I think he'll probably be a bit more diplomatic.
If people are just tuning in, the latest at the moment is that Trump has 246 Electoral College votes, with Harris trailing on 187. And I'm just looking at the stats for Pennsylvania, which is this crucial swing state, and it carries this whopping, is it 19 Electoral College votes. At the moment, 94% of the vote has been counted, and Trump is leading with 50.9% of the vote there, and Kamala on 48. They both in the 3 million region. It really is so close as we thought it might be, but he's got 3.3 million, she's got 3.1 at this point. Will it flip to Kamala? Who knows? All eyes on Pennsylvania. It looks as though that will be the bellwether for who's going to win or lose in this
They have
election.
been saying that for days, yeah.
Well, Roger, great talking to you, getting a flavour of things. Stay with us throughout the morning.
Sure.
We'll hear from you again. And you have your say as well today if you're watching or listening. Just get in touch, log on to us and go to the website and have your say. We take a break from the election to talk about something to certainly celebrate, whether you win, lose or draw. Here is the Christmas giveaway.
Yeah, £25,025 up for grabs, as well as shopping vouchers and a GB News goodie bag. That is all to be won in our Great British Giveaway. Here are the details.
You could win Christmas on us this year.
Roger's still with us in the studio, and we're just wondering if Donald Trump does declare, maybe by 9 o'clock or so this morning, will we see a different Donald Trump in any way? He could have been totally finished. He was nearly finished. Then he could have been totally finished if he hadn't have won this. Would there be a man with more humility and prepared to be more conciliatory than perhaps he's been?
Yes, I think so. And I mean, you just have to look at the last time he won. He was going to put Hillary in jail, and he was going to... Yes. I think the man has... I have seen his grace in various situations, and yeah, he has a lot of grace. I think he'll behave very well.
It's interesting, Roger, you talk about that, and you do know him, and you have been up close and personal with him. How would you describe him as a human being?
He is the most resilient human being I have ever seen. That's the one word to describe him is resilience. The story I like about him, which may be apocryphal, I've never really checked it out, is that when he went bust, he was walking down the street and somebody was talking about his troubles, and he pointed at a homeless person lying in the gutter, and he said, "You see that man? He's worth $900 million more than me."
Yeah, well, I suppose so when you think about it. Sobering.
It will be the comeback of all comebacks if he does pull this off, given how down and out he was, in the words of Nigel Farage this morning. You know, he was down and out in 2020. He's had a series of, obviously January the 6th, we've had electoral fraud charges as well brought to him.
This is the comeback. In the head.
Well, exactly, yeah. Assassination attempts as well.
God turned his head. Resilience is the word. There is nobody I have ever seen nor heard of who is more resilient. And that, frankly, is the American quality. You just fight on.
Either that or he's just unembarrassable, isn't he?
No shame.
No matter what happens to him.
No, because he's been resilient in situations where there's been no embarrassment, where he's been under attack unfairly. He's resilient in everything. I wouldn't limit it to situations where he's embarrassed himself.
Teflon Trump. Well, what about Tom Harwood? He's been going all night and he's been crunching the numbers for us. Goodness me, this has been a huge night. Bring us up to speed on exactly where we are.
Absolutely, a stunning night. We've been building the map ever since 11 p.m. last night. It's several coffees that I've needed throughout the night, and probably several in the morning too. But let's go to that map here behind me, because we'll be able to see a splodge, a hodgepodge of blue and red. We've been building that map through the night, but I have to say there were 7 swing states in all of this. Only one we have been able to officially confirm as flipping. 2 2 having been declared. We started the night with being able to call Kentucky for President Donald Trump, and then it just grew and grew and grew. But if we actually switch to these 7 swing states that have really mattered throughout the course of the evening, we get a bit of a clearer picture by wiping away some of the colour there. We can see these 7 states have been the ones that we've been looking at, watching. Georgia and North Carolina have both gone for Donald Trump. Georgia flipping, of course, from 2020 when it went for Joe Biden. But it's Pennsylvania that all eyes are on now. As we've been saying through the course of the evening, that's 19 electoral votes, a hefty total that actually, if we were to include Alaska here, which is likely to go for Trump, it went for Trump last time and the time before, if Trump were to win Pennsylvania, that takes him to the magic 270 number. That is half of 538 plus 1. That gets you over the winning line to have a majority of electoral votes. Pennsylvania is so far 94% reported. It could be that we're able to declare Pennsylvania really in the next few minutes. And if that happens, Donald Trump is indeed the next president. But it doesn't stop there, because he's also ahead in the counting in Wisconsin and in Michigan. This whole Rust Belt area, these 3 states that have really behaved in the same way since the 1990s. At every presidential elections, these 3 Rust Belt states have voted in exactly the same way. They all went for Joe Biden last time. They all went for Donald Trump the time before that. And they all went for Barack Obama in both 2012 and 2008. Whoever tends to win one of these wins all 3 of them. Could that be the same tonight? Could Donald Trump actually perform a grand sweep of all 7 swing states? If he does manage to get all 7 swing states, it will be a larger victory than he achieved in 2016, and it would indicate what the numbers are already indicating, that Donald Trump isn't just on course to win the Electoral College, he's also on course to win the popular vote.
Well, back here, thanks very much, Tom. Back here at the desk, we have been rejoined by our panel of experts, Martin Baxter, Greg Swenson and Dr. Thomas Gift here. Have you guys been noticing anything particular on the figures just while you've been away?
Well, it's still close in the swing states, so that Trump's ahead, but in the 5 swing states yet to declare, but they have not declared yet. So we remember from 2020 that anything can happen, that the late votes tend to come from the urban areas, and they're much more democratic than the votes that are counted earlier. So it's we're still at a very exciting time.
Trump does less well in the urban areas, is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. So, yeah, places like...
That being said, you know, as Tom was just explaining, we are expecting Pennsylvania to declare any minute. And actually, it's great to have you in the studio, Dr. Gift, not just because of your expertise, but because you are from the bellwether state, which is where the next president of the United States will either be won or lost. How do you see it going? It certainly looks like Trump's going to take it.
Well, I am from Pennsylvania. My family's still there. I spent last summer in Pennsylvania. So I've been saying for a while that Pennsylvania was going to be the decider, and it looks absolutely like this is what's going to put Trump over the edge. Just anecdotally, when I was back in Pennsylvania, of course, I was in a red area of the state. Just enormous number of Trump signs, Trump bumper stickers, F. Biden flags up. This is sort of the mood. And so, again, it's not necessarily representative, but certainly Pennsylvania and its 19 electoral votes will be a bellwether.
Greg, what you've been looking at as chairman of Republicans overseas, anything tickling you as regards results as they're being declared?
Yeah, interesting. Some county results coming in, and also just some ethnic breakdowns. In Michigan, 60% of Latinos are behind Trump versus 34.
See, I was saying this earlier. I mean, a lot on that pro-life situation as well.
It's a great point.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't analyse and don't say, look, you're talking about basically a Catholic population here.
And it, you know, it just shows you that people just don't care about stupid jokes like the one on the Madison Square Garden rally. I mean, tasteless, of course, and regrettable. I'm sure the campaign regretted it, but it did not move the needle, apparently. And it just shows you also about the mass.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tell us about this film, because it's obviously come from your own experiences.
We wanted to create something for the entertainment industry that was...
There's going to be no such shock in the same way this time. He's taken both, by all accounts. I mean, as you've been saying, urging caution at this point, because it's not yet been declared, but it looks as though he's taken both.
Yeah, no, and I think that's, as we said earlier, it's better for the country, it's better for the sort of mandate that he'll feel that he has and that the party will have. But, you know, it's funny, the Democrats, they don't like these traditions, they don't like these rules or guidelines until when it doesn't work for them. But with their luck, you know, they'd abolish the Electoral College, and then the Republicans would start winning popular votes. But
Martin Baxter, can we talk about Congress, obviously made up of those two chambers, the Senate controlled by the Democrats, but has now officially flipped to controlled by the Republicans, so another big success for Trump of the night. And at the moment, too early to say on the House of Representatives, although they currently hold the majority, so likely that they will continue to hold it. How significant is that, not only in terms of, you know, as you were saying, Greg, a mandate, but in terms of, you know, carrying out policy, changing the face of the United States? Well, that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, obviously it's very helpful for that the Republicans can get both houses of Congress. Because remember, Trump's Democratic record or electoral record is very mixed. That in his first presidency, although he won that, he lost congressional seats in the midterms, lost the Senate by the end of his time, and lost the presidency. So in electoral terms, Trump has got quite a lot to prove, but he seems to be bouncing back with the Republicans this time.
At 78, Dr. Giff, you know, that's no young age. He'll be 82 by the end of his
He's the oldest ever.
Oldest ever, and he'll be older than Biden is now at the end of his time as president, if this happens. You know, he doesn't look to show any signs of fatigue, does he? I mean, he is not only Teflon Trump, but he seems to be fit as a fiddle, strong as an ox.
No wrinkles on a balloon, that's what I always say.
No, I completely agree. And just his schedule, rally after rally, event after event, I really think that he does have an incredible amount of stamina and a remarkable amount of resilience, for sure.
I always look at people like this, Doctor, and I think, where do you get your motivation from? What is it that keeps you going? You don't need this. You could be on that golf course full time. You know, he doesn't have to be doing this. Why do you think he is doing it?
Well, Donald Trump certainly enjoys playing his golf, but at the same time, I think he's motivated by an underlying passion for the country.
OK, I'm going to interrupt you.
He's just taken Pennsylvania, we're hearing.
Breaking news, that bellwether state of Pennsylvania has been taken by Donald Trump, and for many people, that will mean it is all over for Kamala Harris at this point. I mean, you know, that's 19 electoral college votes. That is a significant jump there. We haven't got the tally on our... I'm going to do the maths. 246 plus 19. That takes us to 265. There we go, 265, just short of the 270 he needs there. But wow, that is a big moment to have taken Pennsylvania there.
I know, Martin, you were saying, you know, there could be surprise results and things coming in, but basically, has this done it for him?
It's getting very close now. If that report is right, if Pennsylvania has gone to the Republicans and Donald Trump, then they're looking in a very strong position.
And what does this mean, Greg, for America from here on in, from January when he you know, he takes that seat as president? What way will America change?
Well, I know it'll change for the better. I can lead with that. But I think on day one, he'll as promised, liberate the energy sector, and that's one of the things that's been really hurting Americans at their wallet, but also it's hurting the world, right? You know, oil prices have been elevated. That helps the mullahs in Iran. That helped Putin for 2 years before the invasion. It helps our adversaries and hurts our allies. So you'll start to see cheaper energy here in the UK. It might not happen overnight, but I think that's really important to liberate the private sector in general, but especially the energy sector, because it has so much effect on other products.
Your man, you see him as having a relationship with Vladimir Putin, that things may change in that part of the world?
I think so. Look, you know, there's the old argument, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And I think, you know, Trump, although he had some moments where people were raising their eyebrows about the way he speaks about Putin, he doesn't speak out of admiration. He speaks out of understanding that
there's a hint of admiration. Let's not deny it. I mean, he sort of admires his macho image.
Think his message is usually, this is someone that we have to deal with, that we should be concerned about because he's strong or because he has, you know, loyalty in his ranks or whatever is, you know, ends up on the TikTok clip. But I think it's important to remember that he was the one who sent lethal weapons to Ukraine. He's the one who put who sanctioned the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. He's the one who kept the energy sector rolling in America to keep prices down. And so, you know, so many things that he did, in spite of what he said, were really good. And I think we can see that coming again. He'll handle Putin much better than Biden did. And remember, Biden was always compromised on Russia, China, Ukraine, because he was getting paid, directly or indirectly. Well, indirectly in his case. But, you know, there was some real concerns there about his relationship with those countries and his inability to really be objective about it. I don't think you have any of that problem with Trump.
Well, we're on course for a Trump declaration, and he's due to give an address sometime within the next hour. And the way we look at it now, Dr. Gift, is he's about 5 votes away from securing the presidency.
At this point, I would say that Donald Trump has the presidency. It's not official yet, but winning Pennsylvania and the extent to which that's correlated with all of these other states, there's almost no window of opportunity now for Harris.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, give us a sense, do you think, of what will be happening in the Democratic camp right now? I mean, you know, we've seen the posts coming out from Obama and from Kamala saying it's not over till it's over, and this could be a long process, and there will be some states that won't declare, perhaps even Nevada, for a day or so. You know, how long can they stall for? Because we're expecting Trump to come out any minute from HQ down in Florida. They're keeping their heads buried in the sand, do you think, or just, you know, deluded, hoping that this could change? You know, should they come out? Should we be seeing them at this point?
I think we will see Harris tonight, simply because she's made so much of the fact that it's important to respect democratic election outcomes. And so, you know, I don't think she's necessarily going to be in a hurry to do this, but once the Electoral College is called at 270, I imagine she's going to be giving a speech.
Okay. Well, let's cross over to Tom Harwood. He's crunching the numbers. He can tell you how exactly we are looking. 270, the magic number. Bring us up to date, Tom.
Well, Isabel, I think we can say that Donald Trump has done it, and I'll tell you why. Looking at this board now, if we have a look at the map and all of those states as they appear, we've been colouring them in throughout the night. It started with a trickle, it became a flood, and this is, let's start with 2016, why ever not? This is how the map looked in 2016. This was Donald Trump's magic path to victory in 2016. You see, he won these Rust Belt states up here, which of course no Republican had won really since the 1980s. He managed to flip those particularly, but also some of the Sun Belt states. And at that time, of course, Florida and Ohio were both considered swing states as well. Certainly not considered swing states in this election, firmly in the red column. But I wonder if we can get that map back up at some point, because this will show us the story, really building those swing states. Here is some of those swing states. We can now colour 3 of those in red. This is why this matters. Doing all of the maths, if we assume Donald Trump won every single electoral vote he won back in 2020, when, of course, he lost to Joe Biden, and then we add Georgia and Pennsylvania, we add North Carolina, although, of course, he did win North Carolina in 2020, we do actually get to that 270 figure. Donald Trump doesn't need to pick up Arizona, although he's leading in that state. He doesn't need to pick up Nevada. He doesn't need to pick up Wisconsin or Michigan, even though he's leading in those states, simply on the numbers of last time round, plus these states that he has now picked up, particularly the key of Pennsylvania, one of the largest of the swing states and its hefty 19 electoral votes, that takes Donald Trump just to that 270 mark, that winning line. But it doesn't stop there, of course, because once you've got Pennsylvania, what has happened for the last 3 decades? The winner of Pennsylvania has also won Michigan and Wisconsin. At every single presidential election since the 1990s, the winner of the Pennsylvania has won all these 3 Rust Belt states. Incredibly likely now that Donald Trump will carry out that Rust Belt trick once more, winning those states too. He's leading in them, but I have to say, we really don't have to do that much maths. We don't have to pick off that many more states. He only needs to win the states and the one main electoral vote, of course, that he won last time round, and that takes us to 270.
So he's ahead in all the swing states, and as you were saying, Dr. Gift, it looks like a formality now.
I think absolutely. Pennsylvania, as was just noted, really is a predictor for Michigan and Wisconsin. If she can't win Pennsylvania, she can't win this election at this point.
Will there be questions, do you think, about what Kamala Harris did wrong? You know, obviously she isn't technically the incumbent because she wasn't president, but she was in the administration, she was VP. You know, she had all the resources behind her of the same team. Hers to lose, frankly, even though she came in at a late stage. What did she do wrong, do you think?
Well, I think that there certainly will be a postmortem among the Democratic Party as to what Harris did well and what she did poorly. I really think that one of her strategic errors was to focus so much on this idea of democracy being at stake. If you look at polling, only about 1% to 2% of Americans said that that was the most important issue in this election, by far outstripped by immigration, the economy, and so on. So just her messaging, I think, failed to resonate.
I'm just looking at some of the numbers. 265 now for Trump, 187 for Kamala Harris, just 5 points away in the Electoral College. Can you just explain to us, Martin Baxter, about the Electoral College? Because, you know, there have been 700 attempts over the years to either reform or abolish it altogether, not least after, for example, Hillary Clinton winning with the popular vote and then, you know, the Electoral College giving it to Trump in 2016. You know, what are the problems with it? What is the purpose of it? How does it work? Because, for example, Pennsylvania has this whopping 19 votes in the Electoral College based on it having a large population. You get those points based on sort of per capita. But what are the flaws with it? And why is it so unpopular?
Well, it's embedded in the Constitution. That's the way the Americans...
But it could be tweaked with an amendment.
You can always change and rewrite electoral systems. People, many people tend to be fairly conservative about their electoral system, and they think that they can't imagine a different one, and there certainly might not be a consensus for changing it. I can believe that. We have these debates in Britain as well about...
Usually once somebody's won, they don't want to change the system. They've just won by... That's the fatal flaw, right?
Very
true. That lose,
yes.
You know,
yeah, very true indeed. So I guess the point of the Electoral College, a bit like the Senate as well, is to make sure that the smaller states get a sort of a fair say, perhaps even slightly fairer say. It is slightly odd that, you know, in the last few elections it has been these 7 swing states that have dominated, and the entire rest of the country is almost taken for granted. But as you say, if it had been the popular vote today, it's looking like the Republicans would have won anyway. So it is most of the time the two do coincide, I think. But it provides some protection, I guess, from strange results or possible, you know, electoral bad play.
But you think it works as a system, and you wouldn't see any reason.
I think
to
the
change
Americans have got a pretty democratic system. If you look at American democracy, I'd say it's stronger than ours. That the Senate is elected, and the House of Lords is not elected.
But people, yeah, that's true. The second chamber, yeah. But I suppose a lot of people would criticise American politics because you have this kind of, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Roadblocks, where you could just nothing can get through. It's sort of gridlock. That's the famous term.
Well, it's checks and balances, but in a way that...
Yeah, you think that's a check and balance.
Not necessarily a bad thing, because if it's too easy for the government to get legislation through, you get a lot of bad legislation.
Let's get some reaction from the only official Republican in the room, Greg Swenson, about Philadelphia. And the team now down there, we're waiting to see from West Palm Beach, will be breathing a huge sigh of relief.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is great news for the party, but it's also great news for the country that we hopefully with this realignment, there won't be dependency on identity groups, and we can get past that. You know, you saw how the Hispanics are voting in Starr County in Texas, and I mentioned Michigan. You know, the dependency in Philadelphia historically is African Americans. They started fading on Kamala Harris. You know, she's 15 points down from where Hillary and Joe and Barack were, and I think it's refreshing that African American voters are starting to vote on issues that people care about, not just black issues or Hispanic issues. And so this is a good moment. That's why she didn't win Philadelphia, or she's winning Philadelphia, I'm sure, but not by enough to overcome Trump's numbers.
Just to say, 7:01 on this Wednesday morning, America has gone to the polls, and it looks as though Donald Trump is set to become president for the second time. He's 5 electoral college votes off retaining or going back to being president again, and we're expecting a declaration from him certainly within the next hour.
Yeah, looking at live pictures this morning from Trump HQ in West Palm Beach, just a short distance from his Mar-a-Lago estate, where he's been joined by the likes of Nigel Farage and indeed Elon Musk, the owner of that all-important social media platform X. Whilst those results have been coming through, we will be catching up with Nigel Farage, who's been hobnobbing there for us this hour. But he'll be making that short journey to speak to his MAGA supporters there, who, as you can imagine, feeling rather buoyant this morning off the back of what has been a fairly tense night. It was slow going in the beginning, wasn't it, Greg? It's fair to say. It looked like it was going to be a long
I just
night.
want to know, Isabel mentioned Elon Musk there. Greg, what future do you think Elon Musk has within the Trump administration or the Republican Party?
I think a big one. I was on earlier tonight. I was on with his father and talking about, you know, how he evolved into a more political animal and why he supports Trump and the Republican Party. And it's a really interesting transition. But I think he'll be great. Now, I'm not sure he can be in a cabinet post because it's time consuming, and I don't think he's one with a lot of time on his hands. He's got businesses to run, but also, it would be really hard for him to divest properly, and that's something that people who serve in the cabinet have to do quite often. And so that would be really tricky for him. However, I think as a consultant, as an advisor, as the so-called bureaucracies are, or fixing government, however you want to describe it, the bureaucracy in Washington is massively bloated and needs real great reform and reduction. It wasn't intended to be this way. So I think good for Trump for aligning himself with Elon. It helped him in the campaign, and I think Elon Musk would be a great addition to the Trump team.
When you think of the American system, it's been 2 years leading up to today. People are exhausted. I'm exhausted from talking about it. So I'm almost reticent to start talking about 2028. But it has occurred to me in the last few weeks that quite clearly Elon Musk is lining himself up for a future presidential run. And I suspect he could be incredibly popular. What do you think about that?
I don't think so, because he's not a US born. He's not a national.
Right, so even if would he be able to get a passport in anywhere?
Nope, wasn't born here. Yeah, I mean, you have to be born in the U.S. or have parents that were traveling or were in the military.
There we go.
Boris Johnson did.
John McCain
and Boris Johnson's been on the airwaves overnight, singing the praises of Donald Trump and saying what a great leader he is, which has raised eyebrows in some quarters as well. Boris Johnson, well, that's not likely to happen, is it now? So, OK, we can rule Elon Musk out then for 2028. Do you think, though, a lot of Americans are feeling exhausted?
I'm sure, and a lot of Americans will be feeling cross and frightened, and other ones will be delighted. But I think in terms of the bigger picture about the issues that the Democrats will need to address for the next time, that looking at the polling on what issues were most important to Americans, and the democratic issues like abortion, climate change and civil rights were very much secondary issues to the general public in America. The general public were concerned about inflation, immigration and the economy. So the Democrats probably need to, I'd say, reorient themselves on that. And I think they'll have opportunities because the public are concerned about inflation and the economy. But Trump's economic platform is doubtful there, that he favours a loose monetary policy which will increase inflation and tariffs which will also increase inflation and reduce economic growth.
Let's talk about those items and more. Jonathan Ashworth from the Labour Party joins us this morning with his thoughts and reflections on what happened. Jonathan, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Just wondering there, we were talking about what there is to learn. It looks very much as though Donald Trump will be president again. What do you guys in Labour look at and learn from what you see in America?
Well, as you say, we're certainly heading for another Trump presidency, and therefore congratulations to him and his team. Of course, our Prime Minister Keir Starmer has always says he puts country first, party second, and has always said he would work with whoever is put into the White House. In terms of the campaign, I mean, I was over there actually. I went to the Democrats' convention, their equivalent of a party conference, if you like, and it was pretty clear to me, and I've been following it since, is that the economy, and there's a famous phrase which we imported from American politics. Actually, is the economy stupid, which would be a big issue in this campaign. If you're what they call in America a middle-class family in Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, your paycheck has been squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, and you've been feeling worse off. And whether people in the UK like it or not, there was a sense that Donald Trump was better for the US on the economy, better for working families on the economy. Now, as we were just hearing from one of the earlier contributors there, we will see what that actually means, because a lot of his economic policies will not necessarily make these middle-class families better off. But I certainly think in the end it has been the economy, and this is happening to incumbent governments the world over. If people feel worse off, if people feel their governments are not focused on the cost of living, these very bread and butter issues, they get punished at the ballot box.
Say that, coming from Labour, and I know you're not in the parliamentary party anymore because you were one of the big scalps for the party in our election here in July the 4th. But, a lot of people are going to be feeling a lot worse off under the Labour budget. We're not even a week on now. We are a week on since Rachel Reeves produced her budget, and you're talking about people feeling poorer in their pay packet. A lot of people here will feel that way. Perhaps that's a lesson to Labour.
Well, what we try to do, or what the Labour government are trying to do, is turn the economy around by investing in infrastructure and investing in the National Health Service. That helps get people back to work. But I would argue that they are sensible economic policies. But you have hit upon a fundamental truth. In 4 to 5 years' time, at the next general election, I think that question of whether people feel that the economy is working for them will be a central question. In the US, people felt worse off, and that is why they have, it looks like, pretty certain now, elected a new government in the form of Donald Trump, because they feel that he will make them better off. Time will tell whether he does or not, but the state of the economy is still the central issue in politics, and not whether there is some, not about the big figures, and actually whether ordinary working people feel better in their pockets. That's what matters in the end.
What do you think the Labour government's relationship with Donald Trump will be like? We're all thinking about relationship with the Foreign Secretary David Lammy here as well. How do you think it needs to be refined and reconstituted?
Well, let's just look. I mean, as I said, Keir Starmer will always put country first, party second. That's always been his approach to politics. Of course, Keir Starmer and David Lammy have had a meeting. I think they had a dinner actually with Donald Trump at Trump Towers, which by all accounts was very successful. I mean, we have a special relationship with the United States. We are one of the strongest allies of the United States. We always have been. I don't anticipate that special relationship changing. I'm sure the White House under Donald Trump will see the importance of the relationship with the UK. And as I say, they have had this dinner at Trump Towers. They've already begun to build a rapport with one another. And I am sure that the US and the UK will remain strong allies.
We've had one of our commentators, Republican, it has to be said, describing the Foreign Secretary as David Lamentable this morning because of the language that he used in reference to Donald Trump as a neo-Nazi sociopath. How does that reflect a special relationship?
Well, in the end, I mean, David Lammy has already happened. I mean, he was a part of this dinner. He's got a good relationship with who we now expect, I suppose. I mean, to be the vice president, as you know, because that's where it's heading, isn't it? The politicians say things, but in the end, what is in the strategic interests of your country and in the strategic interests of both the US and the UK is that they remain closely aligned, and I'm sure that will continue to be the case.
Thank you very much. It's been good to talk to you. Chief Executive of Labour Together, Jonathan Ashworth, and one of the most prominent faces of the Labour Party leading up to the election earlier this year. Thank you very much indeed. Well, let's take a listen to Nigel Farage, who spoke to us a little bit earlier on from Mar-a-Lago. He's hobnobbing there with Elon Musk, who we've been talking about this morning, and has been waiting for those results to come in with President Donald Trump. He said it's going to be the almighty comeback of all comebacks if he manages to clinch it. We will just get that clip for you in just a moment. But he's right, isn't he, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, Nigel's been right on Donald Trump the whole time, and it's you know, even during the nomination process, Nigel never wavered. He was right. I told him I thought it was time to move on, and Nigel said, no, you don't. Nobody has the magic that Donald Trump has, and he has a point.
Yeah,
really
and where does that leave us? Because obviously there are all these court cases outstanding. 3 weeks' time till he's due to be sentenced in the Stormy Daniels case that he was convicted for, and then there's two outstanding felony charges which don't yet have a date because I know there's an investigation into the judge in Georgia. You know, those are going to be cleared off the agenda.
Because remember, the Democrats' whole reason for doing this was to keep him from being president. Well, he's now going to be president, so they can just get over. I mean, they'll have to get over it because there was so little validity to those cases, especially the Alvin Bragg case, the New York case. But you know, there might have been some more merit to the documents case. You know, just if you followed the letter of the law, but then when Biden was let off the hook on that, it just the optics would be really bad, I think.
We will be speaking to Nigel Farage live very shortly when Donald Trump makes his declaration this morning. But here's the message he has sent us during the evening. This is the latest on what he had to say.
It's happened. It's been called. This is the victory party. He'll be on stage very shortly. This is the most incredible political comeback in modern history. It's completely unbelievable. He's been down, he's been out, he's been in court. It's incredible. It's a good thing for the world, but for the UK, it's massive opportunities if he chooses to seize it. Do you know what? I've been loyal to this guy through thick and thin, all the way, over the course of 9 years. I'm very pleased that I have. Our Prime Minister Keir Starmer needs to roll out the red carpet of Trump and do so very quickly.
Guys, I'm fascinated by this relationship and who's going to get more from it, what it does for Donald Trump and his relationship with Britain and the UK, and what it does for Nigel Farage, if anything. What's your thinking on that?
Well, I think it's very interesting, particularly if you look at the polling numbers on what Trump supporters say about foreign policy, which is not a big issue in US campaigns. But their big foreign policy issue is for the US not to be involved in foreign wars. And that's potentially not so good news for the Israelis, the Ukrainians, and potentially even Eastern Europeans in Europe in general, and for Taiwan.
Yeah. Well, we've seen this in Afghanistan as well, in the US pulling out there.
Yes, Biden himself has been very cautious about committing US troops, and essentially has not wanted to, and has let, in some people's eyes, let the dictators kind of walk over American allies. And there's no evidence to suggest that Trump is going to behave any differently on that, because that's what his supporters want.
Yeah, I suppose there will be concerns about what happens with Ukraine and, you know, the impact that has here on net migration as well. We took on a huge number of Ukrainian refugees. Could we see another influx if that happens, if land is ceded? These are all foreign policy issues that have barely been discussed as part of the domestic agenda in the United States, but have a real impact on us here in the United Kingdom. Martin.
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right that America as a large country is more insulated from direct foreign attack, though immigration is a big issue, but mostly coming up from the southern border from Latin America. Britain is more exposed to the currents of the world in Europe, and that, for instance, Russian aggression in the Baltics or Eastern Europe could be very damaging for us in a large number of ways, and Chinese expansion or muscle flexing around trade routes in Asia could be very bad for British interests as well. So Britain, I think, needs an America that's engaged in the world. And both Biden and Trump, I think, have been, on the whole, relatively isolationist and bad for that.
That's certainly true when it comes to America's first foreign policy of Donald Trump, which is really a belligerent isolationism. I think in terms of sort of interactions with other countries, tariffs, to me, are sort of the biggest issue. Donald Trump has promised to impose between 10 to 20% tariffs on all imports into the United States from across the world, with the exception of China, where he's talked about tariffs upwards of 60%. And I don't think that this is just cheap talk by Trump. It's one of the issues that he has been quite ideologically consistent on throughout the decades. And of course, we saw a lot of turbulence with imposing tariffs during Trump's first administration.
Greg, there we see the audience there in Florida getting ready to listen and watch Donald Trump take that center stage. They're checking the microphones and things there. So this looks like no going back. This looks very, very positive.
Maybe they're just trying to take their time and do all the sound checks so we could get one more state, because it might be a lot more exciting if he goes over 270. And then, AP and the other wire services will call the election. I think that would be a lot more fun to watch, but obviously, I don't think there's a lot of doubt of the outcome now, but it would be nice to have it be official.
Greg, we're just seeing a few party grandees there. I can spot Veeraswamy in the middle, who was obviously one of those vying to get the ticket for the Republicans. Obviously fell in line full square behind Trump once he got it. But there will be a whole number of party grandees gathering there, as well as MAGA supporters, and we can expect, I suppose, the whole complement of the Trump family up on stage with him, from Barron right up to Ivanka and all of them there.
Possibly. I mean, I think Barron will be there. He's sort of taken a little bit more of a higher profile.
18 now, of course. I remember when he won, his father won in 2016, and he was a sort of shy-looking, bewildered child that stayed up past his bedtime, and now he's, 6'6" or something, and fully involved in it.
He really carries himself well, and I think, but you'll see some of the inner circle up there. I talked to some of the big donors that are down there right now. We might see one or two of them. Head of the campaign finance committee. And so I think this is a really exciting moment for the people that have been really dedicated. And it's good for, and I think it's ultimately really good for the UK.
Yeah.
Trump does, as we all agree, Trump does not like war. He doesn't like boots on the ground.
He likes tariffs, though, as we were hearing.
No, that's an issue.
And that's potentially inflationary, as Liam Halligan, an economist that we're familiar with here, has said, not only for Americans, but it's bad for us here in the United Kingdom. How do you sell that to us, Greg?
It's a potential risk, and I think Trump likes to use them tactically as a negotiating tool. So, look, I hope we don't have across-the-board tariffs. I don't think that would be good for the world economy, nor would it be good for the American economy. But I do think that using them tactically, like he did with Mexico, to get the Remain in Mexico policy in place, really worked. And he ended up never actually putting tariffs on Mexico. He just threatened them. So, look, it's one of those issues we don't agree with. We don't necessarily have to agree with every one of his policies. But I can argue it's a return to peace and prosperity. And for the UK and for Europe, peace through strength is really good.
Talking about peace and prosperity, I'm looking at all these British newspapers, and obviously they've had to go early, printing their front pages, and they were all bracing themselves and all predicting civil unrest. The Mail, the Eye, the Mirror, the Star here, the Guardian as well. So they thought he was going to lose, and there would be big reaction. My goodness me.
Look, a lot of this was hyped up. Jan 6 was disgraceful. We're all sorry it happened. Not good for anybody, not good for the country. But it was kind of an aberration. I can't think of another right-leaning or Republican violent moment, political violence, at least in my memory. And when you look at the potential of a Trump victory, you know, I hope we don't see anything from the left. I don't think we will, because they've tried that before. But the riots in 2017 on Inauguration Day and the day after, starting with the Women's March in Washington, but it was in Seattle, it was in New York and Chicago. There was a lot of destruction, a lot of violence. We don't want to see that again. Again, I would be more concerned with violence from the left, because we've seen a lot more of it historically. Summer riots of 2020, good example.
But Dr. Gibb, this is academic now, isn't it? 266 seats in the Electoral College. We're just waiting for 4. But I mean, as you say, it's not a home run. It's a grand slam for Donald Trump. And, you know, it's just a matter of time until we can say that officially. But all sorts of people, the US House Speaker Johnson saying Donald Trump is now our president-elect. We heard from Nigel Farage, though, who's actually in Florida with Trump himself, also calling it. It is just a matter of time.
Absolutely. I think that this is a foregone conclusion at this point. Everything but technically it's been called. We are going to see a huge celebration, certainly from the Trump camp, and we're also going to see a huge celebration from those around him who have backed him since the very beginning. Tulsi Gabbard, Bobby Kennedy Jr., Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, all of them are going to be integral parts of this next administration.
Well, Martin and Thomas, I'm just wondering, as electoral experts, as you guys are, how predictable this was, or how you actually feel about this result coming in today. Is this a genuine surprise to you?
It is a surprise. I thought that it was going to be close, and I don't think that anyone had a crystal ball just looking at the polls in advance. But we've seen that polls have a margin of error. And I think that there probably has been too much attention to just small blips up and down of Trump and Harris in these recent weeks, trying to read the tea leaves. Really, it was a coin toss going in. These polls are flawed. There's going to be, again, sort of a post-mortem on what these polls got right, what they got wrong. But it seems like they systematically undercount Trump's core demographics.
We're just looking at pictures there of Nigel Farage talking to somebody with a MAGA hat on just to his left, looking animated, given that they've been up all night. I'm not sure what the time actually is locally there, but it is the small hours of the morning, and they are looking energised, they're looking buoyant, and, well, they might be. And he's spent the whole day and evening at Mar-a-Lago in this inner circle with Trump. A few eyebrows kind of raised, weren't there, Greg, about the fact that the owner of X was among those in the fold there. And Elon Musk, having personally donated millions to supporters of Trump in the last few days. He's held rallies supporting Trump. He's in daily contact with him. Trump himself holding 4 rallies yesterday. I mean, the energy of these people in his core circle.
Yeah, I mean, and Trump, as we talked about earlier, is 78 years old, and he's had quite a schedule the last few months. But
the thing is, Greg, everybody forgets. I mean, there's a feel-good factor there. I'm sure there would have been a feel-good factor if Kamala Harris had won within her supporters. But this man, he's been in court. He's been accused of all sorts of awfulness, disrespecting women. Good. Where do we begin? Where do we stop? And there's still more stuff to come in the courts. If that was a British politician, he would not exist. He would not be there.
I think historically, nor would an American politician. I think Trump Bill Clinton, you can say, kind of rewrote the rules a little bit. Things changed after 1996 or 98 was. That was the beginning of a defining moment where politicians can now at least publicly get away with things. I think there were plenty of them that were doing things privately they wouldn't be proud of.
Clinton there. Yeah. And guys, I put it to you, whether it's Bill Clinton, whether it's Boris Johnson in the UK, or Donald Trump, television and becoming a celebrity and becoming a personality counts for something. Now, I've met Bill Clinton on a number of occasions, and in my humble opinion, this man has got star quality. Yeah. He is a star. He is a star. You're in his presence and you think, gosh, this guy's something special. And Trump has that as well. He became famous through a TV program, and that's counted for a lot, has it not?
Absolutely. Trump is a uniquely iconoclastic and charismatic president, which is why I'm not even sure if Trumpism can really exist without Trump himself. He got his start in The Apprentice.
I hear the warm-up act beginning to...
Trump
introduce Trump. Let's just listen in to what they're saying in West Palm Beach, Trump HQ.
Second Lady Usha Vance, along with friends and campaign staff.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day, I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again. And in addition to having won the battleground states of North Carolina, I love these places, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, we are now winning in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes. But it's much easier doing what the networks did or whoever called it, because there was no other path. There was no other path to victory. We also have won the popular vote. That was great. Very proud of that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And, winning the popular vote was very nice, I will tell you. It's a great feeling of love. We have a great feeling of love in this very large room with unbelievable people standing by my side. These people have been incredible. They've made the journey with me, and we're going to make you very happy. We're going to make you very proud of your vote. I hope that you're going to be looking back someday and say that was one of the truly important moments of my life when I voted for this group of people beyond the president, this group of great people. America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good. And the Senate races in Montana, Nevada, Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We're all won by the MAGA movement. They helped so much. And in those cases, every one of them, we worked with the senators. They were tough races. And I mean, the number of victories in the Senate was absolutely incredible. And we did tele-rallies. We did tele-rallies with each one of them. And sometimes we did 2 or 3 and it was amazing to look at all of those victories. Nobody expected that, nobody. So I just wanted to thank you very much for that. And you have some great senators and some great new senators. And it also looks like we'll be keeping control of the House of Representatives. And I want to thank Mike Johnson. I think he's doing a terrific job. Terrific job. I want to also thank my beautiful wife, Melania, First Lady. Who has the #1 best-selling book in the country. Can you believe that? Oh, no, she's done a great job, works very hard to help people. So I just want to thank her. But I want to thank my whole family, my amazing children, and they are amazing children. Now, we all think our children are amazing. Everybody here thinks their children are amazing, but that's a good thing when you think they are. But Don, Eric, Ivanka, Tiffany, Barron, Laura, Jared, Kimberly, Michael, thank you all. What a help. What a great help. My father-in-law, Victor, is tremendous, and we miss very much Melania's mother, Amalia. We miss Amalia, don't we, huh? She would be very happy right now, standing on this stage. She'd be so proud. She was a great woman, that one. Beautiful inside and out. She was a great woman. I want to be the first to congratulate our great, now I can say, Vice President-elect of the United States, J.D. Vance. And his absolutely remarkable and beautiful wife, Usha Vance. And he is a feisty guy, isn't he? You know, I've said, go into the enemy camp, and you know the enemy camp is certain networks, and a lot of people don't like to, sir, do I have to do that? He just goes, okay, which one, CNN, MSDNC? He'll say, all right, thank you very much. He actually looks fine. He's like the only guy I've ever seen. He really looks forward to it, and then he just goes in and absolutely obliterates them. Say a couple of words.
Wow. Well, Mr. President, I appreciate you allowing me to join you on this incredible journey. I thank you for the trust that you placed in me. And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America. And under President Trump's leadership, we're never going to stop fighting for you, for your dreams, for the future of your children. And after the greatest political comeback in American history, we're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership.
Thank you very much. He's turned out to be a good choice. I took a little heat at the beginning, but he was, I knew the brain was a good one, about as good as it gets. And we love the family, and we're going to have a great 4 years, and we're going to turn our country around, make it something very special. It lost that little thing called special. We have to make it so. We're going to make this so great. It's the greatest country and potentially the greatest country in the world by far. And right now, we're going to just work very hard to get all of that back. We're going to make it the best it's ever been. We can do that. If we had to wait longer, I don't know. It was going bad, and it was going bad fast. We're going to have to seal up those borders, and we're going to have to let people come into our country. We want people to come back in, but we have to let them come back in, but they have to come in legally. They have to come in legally. Let me also express my tremendous appreciation for Susie and Chris, the job you did. Susie, come here. Come here, Susie. Chris, come here, Chris. Susie likes to stay sort of in the back, let me tell you. The Ice Maiden, we call her the Ice Maiden. Come here, Chris. Come here, Chris. Susie likes to stay in the background. She's not in the background. Come here, Susie.
This wasn't expected, but I just want to thank, obviously, President Trump for this journey. It was a great one, and he's a hell of a candidate, and he's going to be a hell of a great 47th president. And this team that we had, the best team, and, of course, even my boss, Susie Wiles, the best. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Susie. Look at her, she's shy. I've never seen her be shy before. Susie. They're great. Everybody up here is great. Everybody up here is very special. But the Trump, who did you say? Oh, let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. Now he is. Now he's an amazing guy. We were sitting together tonight. You know, he spent 2 weeks in Philadelphia and different parts of Pennsylvania, campaigning. You know, he sent the rocket up 2 weeks ago, and I saw that rocket, and I saw it coming down. I saw it. It was, when it left, it was beautiful, shiny white. When it came down, it didn't look so pretty. It was going 10,000 miles an hour, and it was burning like hell. I said, what happened to your paint job? He said, we've never made a paint that could withstand that kind of heat. And, but I saw it come down and turn around. And it was, you know, it's like 22 stories tall, by the way. It looks a little smaller than that, but it's big. And it came down, and you saw all that fire burning. And I'm saying, only Elon can do this. It must be an Elon. And I tell the story. I told it last night. I had a man on the phone. I had the screen muted, no sound. I was talking to a very important man, happens to be here. And that very important guy, one of the most important people in, I would say, the country, actually. But, you know, I was president, and now it looks like I was going to be maybe president again, so I figured I could ask him to hold. So I asked him to hold. And especially because you're going to be president again, they hold. So I took the phone down, and I'm looking at the screen. I'm seeing this crazy thing that's going around and coming down. It looks like it's going to crash into the gantry. And I said, oh, no. And I said, do me a favor, do you mind holding for a couple of minutes? I want to see this. I thought it was a space-age movie or something. I put the phone down. Bad part, I didn't pick it up for 45 minutes, and he was holding. But this spaceship came down, and I saw those engines firing, and it looked like it was over. It was going to smash. And then I saw the fire pour out from the left side, and I put it straight. And it came down so gently, and then it wrapped those arms around it, and it held it. And just like you hold your baby at night, your little baby. And it was a beautiful thing to see. And I called Elon. I said, Elon, was that you? He said, yes, it was. I said, who else can do that? Can Russia do it? No. Can China do it? No. Can the United States do it other than you? No, nobody can do that. I said, that's why I love you, Elon. That's great. And you know, when we had the tragic Hurricane Helene, and it hit North Carolina, they were really devastated, the water. This was a big water as big as we've ever seen. What a hurricane. It built lakes out of nothing. Fields became lakes, and the danger was unbelievable. And the people from North Carolina came to me and they said, would it be possible, at all possible, for you to speak to Elon Musk? We need Starlink. I said, what's Starlink? It's a form of communication. So I called Elon, and I'll tell you what, he had, and it was very dangerous. People would die. They had no communication. All the wires were down. I called Elon Musk. I said, Elon, you have something called Starlink. Is that right? Yes, I do. What the hell is it? He said, it's a communication system that's very good. I said, Elon, they need it really, really badly in North Carolina. Can you get it? He had that there so fast. It was incredible. So, and it was great. It saved a lot of lives. He saved a lot of lives. But he's a character. He's a special guy. He's a super genius. We have to protect our geniuses. We don't have that many of them. We have to protect our super geniuses. I want to thank some of the guys. You know, we have up here today the U.S. Open champion. He's a fantastic golfer. He's slightly longer than me. Hits the ball a little bit longer than me. Just a little bit. Bryson DeChambeau is up here someplace. What happened to Bryson? Where is he? Bryson. Oh, he was shot. He's hitting balls. Oh, he's on the way. He's hitting balls. Bryson. Oh, look at him. He's got a great career going. Great U.S. Open, Bryson. That's a fantastic job. And we also have a man, Dana White, who has done some job. He's a tough guy. So Dana started UFC and came to me, do you mind if I use your... Nobody wanted to give him a rinse because they said it's a rough sport, a little rough. And I helped him out a little bit, and I went, and they said, this is the roughest sport I've ever seen, but I began to like it, and he loved it, and nobody's done a better job in sports. And you know, he's a very motivational kind of a guy, what he does. He gets these fighters, and they really go at it, and it's become one of the most successful sports enterprises anywhere at any time. It's doing so well. I'd like to ask Dana just to say a couple of words, because people love to hear from him. Dana,
please. Nobody deserves this more than him, and nobody deserves this more than his family does. This is what happens when the machine comes after you. What you've seen over the last several years, this is what it looks like. Couldn't stop him. He keeps going forward. He doesn't quit. He's the most resilient, hard-working man I've ever met in my life. His family are incredible people. This is karma, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves this. They deserve it as a family. I want to thank some people real quick. I want to thank the Nelk boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Bussin' with the boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan. And thank you, America. Thank you. Have a good night.
that is a piece of work. No, he's really an amazing guy. But most of all, I want to thank the millions of hardworking Americans across the nation who have always been the heart and soul of this really great movement. We've been through so much together, and today you showed up in record numbers to deliver a victory like probably like no other. This was something special, and we're gonna pay you back. We're gonna do the best job. We're gonna turn it around. It's got to be turned around. It's got to be turned around fast, and we're gonna turn it around. We're gonna do it in every way, with so many ways, but we're gonna do it in every way. This will forever be remembered as the day the American people regained control of their country. So I just want to say that on behalf of this great group of people, these are hard-working people. These are fantastic people, and we can add a few names like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He came in. And he's going to help make America healthy again. And now he's a great guy, and he really means it. He wants to do some things, and we're going to let him go to it. I just said, but, Bobby, leave the oil to me. We have more liquid gold, oil and gas. We have more liquid gold than any country in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. We have more than Russia. Bobby, stay away from the liquid gold. Other than that, go have a good time, Bobby. We're going to be paying down debt. We're going to be reducing taxes. We can do things that nobody else can do. Nobody else is going to be able to do it. China doesn't have what we have. Nobody has what we have. But we have the greatest people also. Maybe that's the most important thing. This campaign has been so historic in so many ways. We've built the biggest, the broadest, the most unified coalition. They've never seen anything like it in all of American history. They've never seen it. Young and old, men and women, rural and urban. And we had them all helping us tonight, when you think. I mean, I was looking at it. I was watching it. They had some great analysis of the people that voted for us. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. They came from all corners, union, non-union, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American, Muslim American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful. It was a historic realignment, uniting citizens of all backgrounds around a common core of common sense. You know, we're the party of common sense. We want to have borders. We want to have security. We want to have things be good, safe. We want great education. We want a strong and powerful military, and ideally we don't have to use it. You know, we had no wars. 4 years we had no wars, except we defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in record time, but we had no wars. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. But this is also a massive victory for democracy and for freedom. Together, we're going to unlock America's glorious destiny. We're going to achieve the most incredible future for our people. Yesterday, as I stood at my last stop on the campaign trail, I'll never be doing a rally again. Can you believe it? I think we've done 900 rallies approximately from them. Can you imagine? 901, something, a lot of rallies. And it was sad. Everybody was sad. Many people, I said, this is our last rally. But now we're going on to something that's far more important, because the rallies were used for us to be put in this position where we can really help our country. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make our country better than it ever has been. And I said that many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission. The task before us will not be easy, but I will bring every ounce of energy, spirit, and fight that I have in my soul to the job that you've entrusted to me. This is a great job. There's no job like this. This is the most important job in the world. Just as I did in my first term, we had a great first term, a great first term. I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people. We will make America safe, strong, prosperous, powerful, and free again. And I'm asking every citizen all across our land to join me in this noble and righteous endeavor. That's what it is. It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try. We're going to try. We have to try. And it's going to happen. Success will bring us together. I've seen that. I've seen that. I saw that in the first term when we became more and more successful. People started coming together. Success is going to bring us together, and we are going to start by all putting America first. We have to put our country first for at least a period of time. We have to fix it, because together we can truly make America great again for all Americans. So I want to just tell you what a great honor this is. I want to thank you. I will not let you down. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, what about that for an oration? Donald Trump holding that audience in Florida, speaking passionately, speaking entertainingly, speaking emotionally about things. Greg, what did you think?
I think it was great, and you captured it. It wasn't just one theme. He hit all those those three pillars, and I thought it was really well done. He was very gracious. He included everybody, many other people, in the speech and let them talk. I thought it was really well done.
He talked about promises made and promises kept. That's what he's in the business of doing.
Yeah, and he's proved it. I mean, this is just a fantastic moment for the country, and I think he was again very gracious. He didn't sound vindictive. I thought it was really well done.
I mean, the opening remark from him was, "Let's help our country heal," which is an olive branch to Democrats, quite frankly, isn't it? After what has been an unprecedented sort of the mudslinging that has been included and attempts on his life. And he talked about that, and he said, "God spared my life, but America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. There's even given us back control of the Senate." And he's right, isn't he, Dr. Gift, who's still in the studio on our panel with us this morning? He's got control of Congress now. He's won the popular vote, and it looks as though he's going to take the Electoral College. We're 4 points away waiting for that to be declared. But, I mean, it's a done deal now.
I think it's a done deal. It's a fait accompli. What will be interesting to look at is the extent to which his speech reflects the tone that he begins his administration on during the first 100 days, because he did, in this address, strike a conciliatory tone. At the same time, he has promised to engage in a retribution tour and to use sort of the apparatuses of the federal government to go after political adversaries. So we're all kind of waiting and seeing.
J.D. Vance will probably play a key role as well. He came and took to the stage. He said, "We've just witnessed the greatest political comeback in American history," and that's a fair assessment, isn't it, Martin Baxter? How prominent do you think he's going to be? I mean, it certainly sounded like Donald Trump was very pleased with his running mate tonight.
Yes, indeed, and it is true that assuming that Trump wins more of the swing states, which is looking very likely, and is president, then it will be one of the biggest electoral comebacks in American history. That in 2016 he lost the House and the Senate and the presidency, and he's now looking to win them all back 8 years later. So 4 years.
Yes, 2020, 2016 he won it. Yeah.
4 years later. And you're right that J.D. Vance as well is in a very strong position now, that he had perceived having a very good campaign, a good debate against the Democratic equivalent. And obviously Trump will be in the second year of his maximum two-term limits. So at the next election, J.D. Vance will obviously be in pole position to be the Republican nominee for presidency then.
And the political map looks very interesting geographically. On the East Coast and the West Coast, Kamala Harris territory, and everything in between belongs to Trump.
Yes, but that is the way America's been for some years now. So the central section is red and the coastal parts are blue. So the polarization of America has not changed very much. The popular vote totals, as we're hearing, Donald Trump and the Republicans look like they're going to win, but not win terribly much. So America's still quite divided even after this election.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. There you have that historic declaration. Donald Trump has declared himself as the 47th President of the United States. And we'll be back with more on this right after this very short break.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On Merseyside, the A580 is closed each way off the A59 Kirkdale Road at Everton after an accident. Part of Kirkdale Road also closed. On the M6 in Staffordshire, there's a lane closed southbound where someone's broken down between junctions 11 and 10 from Cannock to the Walsall Wolverhampton turn. In Somerset, the A370 is closed at Flax Bourton after an accident. Chiltern rail services remain suspended between Great Missenden and Marylebone Station in London. And there are also no trains running between Reading and Bedwyn because of an incident with taxis and a shuttle coach instead. In Essex, the A127 is partly blocked by an accident on the westbound exit to the M25, causing queues from Dunton Waylet. And in West Sussex, the A29 is blocked each way by an accident on Berry Hill, causing delays towards and away from Bognor Regis. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
We're giving. Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Donald Trump has declared victory as he leads the race to the White House.
The former president is on the brink of becoming president with 266 electoral college votes. He needs, of course, 270 to win.
Kamala Harris trailing on 188.
Well, joyous. Joyous. I mean, this is the most incredible political comeback in any of our lifetimes.
Well, we'll be joined shortly by Nigel Farage. He's going to be joining us throughout the show. We saw him a little bit earlier, live at that acceptance speech, and he's been with Donald Trump overnight, and of course his close ally, Elon Musk, at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, what does all of this mean here for us in Britain? We'll be bringing you the latest reaction, your thoughts and your opinions, all counting.
Plenty of mist and murk around this morning. Is it going to stick around all day, or will there be any brighter weather on the way? Full forecast from me coming up soon.
On this Wednesday morning, a very good morning for you, a very significant day. A new president in the United States, not officially declared yet, but that's the way it's looking. He's Donald Trump. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
We've just had a big speech in Florida from Donald Trump, and in the studio here we have got Graham Davies, and Graham is a political presentation expert. So that was a long time, 40 minutes or so. He was on his feet. What did you make of what he had to say?
Well, he's a politician like no other and a public speaker like no other. And he will always surprise you in whatever technique he chooses to use. I saw there was an auto cue set up for him, but clearly he wasn't using it. That was one of his usual rambles, which I have to say did have an almost hypnotic effect on his hometown audience. Indeed, as his speeches always seem to have that hypnotic effect. And despite the fact that he puts content together and sort of slaps it into the frying pan on some rice and creates a sort of word risotto, nevertheless, he somehow gets to the end. But one thing that he was missing tonight, which sadly was shown by three people he got on stage to speak as well as him, energy. He looks and sounds absolutely exhausted.
I agree with you. I thought he got up there, which was basically, folks, we've done it. We've crossed the finish line here. We're all very thankful. But I thought the audience was receptive to him doing that?
Guys, it was 3 a.m. He did 4 rallies yesterday. He's been at a party in Mar-a-Lago overnight. I mean, how much energy do you want this 78-year-old to show?
Well, you want enough energy for him to be able to generate it through the next 4 years. There's a danger of him sounding like Joe Biden.
Ooh, OK. Well, I don't suspect that Roger Gewald, his friend and economist, will share those thoughts. What did you make of his speech there? Because he made some great lines. America's given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. They've given us back control of the Senate. And he's right. Not only has he won the popular vote, it looks like he's got the Electoral College or is not far off, and he's taken Congress.
I predicted that it would be a Trump win, and I predicted when I emailed all the producers earlier today that for once the result was going to come in very early rather than, as they were saying only a few hours ago in America, maybe in a day or two. So I'm not surprised with that, and I think that his speech was great, and if you know the man, he does that. He likes to start out very calm and then take you with him as he builds a crescendo. I didn't think he was lacking in energy at all. I thought that he was doing, as Isabel said, surprisingly well for a 58-year-old
Yes.
after what he's been through. And I thought it was.
But we may also be getting a taste of a reformed Donald Trump, one who's saying, I may have been cocky, I may have been arrogant, I may have been very forceful before all of this, but we're relaxed, we've crossed the finish line, everything's okay. And maybe he's more forgiving.
You keep making this point, and I think you're prescient here. I think you've spotted something that no one else has commented on. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And knowing the man as I do, not well, but pretty well, I know him. I wouldn't be surprised if that isn't a strategic point high in his mind, which Melania, Barron, and many others and friends of mine who advise him are telling him daily he needs to focus on, which is to be more gentle, more diplomatic, a different sort of Donald Trump. I think you've spotted something, Eamonn.
Graham Davis, in terms of presentation, one of the first messages that he delivered to that crowd this morning was it's time to help America heal. That chimes with what Eamonn and Roger are saying here, doesn't it? This conciliatory tone that perhaps it's less going to be about crowing this time. He knows that he's only going to have this one last seat, one last go in the White House. A lot of people call the second term for a president a lame duck presidency. What did you make of the fact that was so high up in his acceptance speech there?
He said that and, pardon me, made an impact with it. Could I just borrow your water?
Of course you can, yes.
Something going round, I apologise.
Will you keep it to yourself?
I'll do my best.
You keep the glass there.
He started with something significant and indeed ended with something significant when he said, this is the moment that Americans regained control of the country with common, hardcore common sense. And they were significant. But do remember, looking back in their speech, he spent nearly 8 minutes talking about the spaceship of Elon Musk as though it were a baby, and then seemed obsessed with Bryson DeChambeau's balls. And if he's so conciliatory to his opponent and to Democrats and the people who didn't vote for him, why didn't he mention Kamala Harris once during his conciliatory
Why isn't
remarks?
she speaking? This is my point.
Yeah.
She's got a chance. The writing's on the wall for her. She could come out now and just say, look, we give it her best. It didn't quite work.
She could concede.
She could concede.
She could concede. But look, I think, Graham, you're with respect still missing the point. His whole speech was about thanking people, not about him for a change, and about what he's going to do. He just kept bringing up people, having them speak and thank them.
And he did plug his wife's book.
And
couldn't help himself.
Of course. Wouldn't you plug your husband?
Probably not if I'd just won the presidency.
Okay, all right, well, whatever. But, well, after all, he's a salesman, He's
Absolutely.
And that was a remarkable thing, I have to say, because normally the Donald Trump we've known for many years, once he's got the spotlight, doesn't like to give it up. But actually, rather than it being a sign of him being a different Donald Trump, I actually think it's a sign of him being a more tired Donald Trump. He needed the breaks on stage while people with more energy started
Have you ever
speaking.
met him?
No.
It's like being with a 50-year-old. Believe me, there's nothing tired about him. His energy is extraordinary. His resilience is unbelievable. He enters the room and, you know, there's a bit of an explosion of energy. You feel it.
Let's see what the explosion of energy is like back in the UK. Our political editor, Chris Hope, he's going to give us some reaction as to how this win is going down in the UK. Morning, Chris.
Morning, Eamonn. Morning, Isabel. Yeah, you can see a bleary-eyed Westminster's waking up behind me to this news that Donald Trump is almost certainly going to be the next leader of the free world. I've been looking back. I mean, I think I was the last British journalist to ask a question of Donald Trump about what he thought of Keir Starmer back in September in Trump Tower in New York. And he told me then, I think he's very nice. He ran a great race. He did very well. He's very popular. So clearly the special relationship endures whoever leads the UK or the US. But there's no question that some of those comments might be trotted out today that Labour MPs made about Donald Trump in the past, notably David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, calling Donald Trump a neo-Nazi, sympathising sociopath and a racist. I mean, since the election, the Foreign Office has been doing its best to try and get in there with the Trump team. I mean, it looks like almost like a diplomatic masterstroke right now, because Keir Starmer managed to meet with Donald Trump, but not with Kamala Harris. Now, it looks like increasingly likely the meeting with Kamala Harris is not required, and it looks like Starmer did get in there, meet with, rightly perhaps now, looking back on it, meet with Donald Trump in September last year. Strategists right now in Downing Street and Whitehall are working out what this means for UK government. I think it means it's more likely to get a trade deal with the US. He's very much an Anglophile president. He has relations in Scotland with the Isle of Lewis, for example. And also there will be concerns, I think, about the commitment to the support of Ukraine fighting Russia. He told before the election, Donald Trump said he'd get end that war on day one. We know he's quite friendly with Putin. What does that mean for the support for Ukraine? That's a big worry, I think, right now in Whitehall. But also his close friendship with Nigel Farage is really interesting. I think this whole victory, as it looks like almost certainly will happen now, will make Nigel Farage a further thorn in the side of this government. He's already difficult anyway, winning 4 million votes in July, 5 MPs, of course, looking ahead into May's local elections, the Welsh elections after that, and Scottish elections. But now he can almost say he's got his own personal special relationship with the US president. That's a worry, I think, for number 10. He'll be able to say, well, Trump told me this last night. What do you think to the UK government? So it makes it harder, I think, for the Labour government to ignore Nigel Farage. And just finally, on the issue of the Chagos Islands, one of the most significant things done by the Labour government so far since the election was to hand over sovereignty of the Chagos Islands after 100 years to Mauritius. I just wonder whether Donald Trump may withdraw support for that deal, and that could torpedo altogether. Just a thought.
Interesting, a very good thought. Thanks very much, Chris. Graham Davies, as a political presentation expert, what effect does this have on British politics, British politicians, the British government? And I'm thinking of Foreign Secretary David Lammy after his neo-Nazi type comments towards Donald Trump.
Well, David Lammy was always a bold choice as Foreign Secretary, and you could argue that he has developed his own rather weird special relationship with Donald Trump, one that he is going to have to step back from somehow if he's visiting Washington and talking about matters of great import. It's very difficult to project yourself as somebody who's diplomatic and able to adapt to situations and different personalities when you've called the potential and now definite leader of the free world a sociopath with Nazi tendencies. I mean, this was a man David Lammy, who spent most of his first speech in the United Nations talking about himself. And it's going to be very difficult for him from now on.
Roger, what about those who'll be saying this morning that actually this isn't necessarily all about Donald Trump offering something new? It is more of a massive failure of President Biden. The fact that he, failed to sell a message or a life to Americans that they wanted. I mean, Kamala Harris, to be fair to her, came back significantly in the polls from where Biden left them, didn't she?
I think that President Biden has failed in the respects that you mentioned, Isabel, for the last 48 or 49 years. He's simply mediocre. It's Obama who pulls his levers and runs him. And it's the failure of Obama and the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, on a lot of fronts, but most of all, to find a proper candidate amongst more than 300 million Americans. And they had to shove Kamala in. And yes, she came up because, starting with Barack Obama, they promoted her like a Hollywood rock star. And I just can't wait. I have several more broadcasts today. Then I'm flying to the States because I want to go to the airport to see the private jumbo jet that's going to take all those Hollywood busybodies who know nothing about politics, who said they're leaving the country, starting with the chairman, Bruce Springsteen, if Trump is elected. I want to see them all off on their flight to Rwanda.
There was a lot of them, they did give her their support, but a lot of them took a while to get there, and that includes the Obamas and
That's
the
British
Clintons.
understatement. They didn't give her, please, sir, may I have some support, sir, was her litany over and over and over again. And only at the last minute, when there was nowhere else to turn, perhaps Graham will agree, they shoved in this person with a terrible track record. I mean, 10 million illegal people entered the States under her watch. And then, of course, the story has now emerged. They wanted and would, had she won, want 40 million more, because those will all be Democratic voters, and we'll never have another election.
Crumble in the vote. I mean, she wasn't a disgrace in the overall
She
vote.
wasn't a disgrace, and the situation is exactly as has just been described. She was thrust into the position at the head of the army, straight into combat, and they did an adequate job of turbo boosting her. She was well scripted. She did perform as well as she could do, came out with some decent lines that she'd rehearsed during the debate, almost as though she actually believed what she was saying.
Yeah, but
you can't inject star
But what
quality.
you're leaving out is that those lines were about things that don't really matter at this point. Abortion, elementary school truancy, I'm black, I'm Asian, I'm a woman. None of those has anything to do with being a president. I would take a green a transgender lizard if they could do the job. I really don't care about all of that stuff. The challenges today are Putin, China, et cetera, economy. She never spoke about those things. She played to the emotions.
And of course, every time that she did speak in a reasonably adequate, reasonably professional way, it sort of gave emphasis to me, to the great ghost in the room, the superstar public speaker in the Democratic machine, that, of course, wasn't on the ballot, Michelle Obama. The last speech she did had poise, it had power, it had precision.
And I don't think anybody's going to disagree with you on that. The question is, could she ever be wooed or pursued to be on the Democrat ticket?
Well, every time that she's been asked or it's been hinted at her, she's come out with 50 shades of hell no. But, of course, every time that she speaks, Democrats think, oh, gosh, I wish she'd been the candidate. And Republicans think, oh, thank heavens she wasn't the Democrat candidate.
She'd win perhaps on a popularity vote, but not on the merits, not on what's necessary. And I don't know. I think David Lamentable may become her political advisor fairly soon. So,
well, listen, thank you for your analysis, both of you. We appreciate that from Roger Gewolb and Graham Davis this morning. But for now, we're going to take a check on the forecast with Aidan McGivern.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a misty and some places foggy start to the day, and it stays grey and gloomy for most of us. But northern Scotland faring well for any brighter or perhaps sunnier spells heading into the afternoon. Also a few cloud breaks here and there, North Wales, Northern England, likely to see them come and go. But for much of the UK, it's low cloud, it's mist, and in some places, fog lasting all day. Where the fog does last all day, it's going to feel cold. But where we get some brighter spells, particularly northern Scotland, there's the potential for temperatures up to mid or even high teens. So it's pleasant afternoon for northern Scotland, some decent sunny skies, and it's going to feel warm in the sunshine as the wind moves over the mountains and comes down on the other side, warmer and drier. Across the mountains, though, a lot of low cloud, mist, fog, drizzle. Some drizzle as well for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, West Wales. 1 or 2 spots for the south coast. However, for the vast majority, we've got relatively benign, slow-moving weather patterns in place at the moment. High pressure sitting to the east, a southerly airflow. That's going to pick up some strength overnight, and it will certainly be blustery for western Scotland. And it's going to turn increasingly damp in the far west across parts of Northern Ireland later. But for many, it's another quiet one as we start off Thursday. Once again, it's low cloud, mist and fog from the word go. Some tricky driving conditions in the south, for example, where we've got some stubborn fog patches. And the sun being weak at this time of year means that the fog will be slow to clear, and in some places it could last all day. Best place for sunshine, once again, northern Scotland. Also the best place for warmth, 16, 17 Celsius possible here, 13 or 14 elsewhere.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, if you are feeling in celebratory mood this morning, or if indeed you need cheering up,
Did you cheer yourself up last night with the Guy Fawkes? Did you do anything with the kids?
I didn't know, actually. Totally missed it.
Did you notice any fireworks?
No, since moving out of London, it's very quiet. I remember being out on the roof on bonfire night in London, and you see fireworks sort of 360 degrees. It's very quiet where we are. But we're going to some on Friday night.
OK.
So that's something to look forward to.
So meanwhile, Isabel's going to celebrate Christmas on your behalf. How are we going to do it?
Well, I was going to say, if you feel like celebrating, or indeed if you feel like cheering up, how about £25,025 to help you on your way, plus some shopping vouchers and a GB News goodie bag. Here are all the details.
I tell you, we've got Nigel Farage as part of that whole audience that was in Florida listening to Donald Trump, soon to be President Donald Trump again.
Well, he was on the channel around 5 o'clock, and I have to say, he was quite cheerful then. So goodness knows what sort of mood he's going to be in when we catch up with him. Jubilant, I suspect. Don't move a muscle. All the analysis, all the very latest, and what proves to have been a very interesting night. All the latest here on Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Restaurant St. Bart's executive head chef Johnny Crowe creates ramen with a British twist, using only the finest UK-sourced produce. As the only restaurant in London to hold both a Michelin star and a green Michelin star, St. Bart's emphasises sustainability and the diversity of British ingredients. Johnny joins me now. Johnny, congratulations on having these 2 Michelins. How do you get a Michelin green star?
Probably a better question for the inspectors, but I mean, I think it's down to a lot of hard work.
What hoops do you have to go through?
So I think it's working every day on it. The sustainability isn't something that you just achieve and then therefore you have it and you can sort of relax. It's about every day trying to be better, trying to make a restaurant and a business that is overly sustainable.
So what things do you do to make it sustainable?
So one of the main things that we've really tried to do is focus in on British produce, and actually, you know, part of that is about sustainability and food miles. A massive part of it for us was also about sort of helping the British economy and the farming economy and our fisheries as well. But yeah, no, the idea...
We have a lot of farms near St. Bart's, which is in the heart of the City of London.
Well, funnily enough, there's an amazing collective called Shrub Provisions, who we use a hell of a lot, who work with farmers all around East Sussex. So it makes a difference from flying it in from Kenya or somewhere else like that. But no, like a big part of it was, one, using British produce to cut down on food miles, but also helping sustain our farming industry.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We just want to say to you, the Prime Minister has had something to say. What's he been saying?
Well, he has just congratulated Donald Trump. This is what he said. Congratulations, President-elect Trump, on your historic election victory. I look forward to working with you in the years ahead. As the closest of allies, we stand shoulder to shoulder in defence of our shared values of freedom, democracy and enterprise. From growth and security to innovation and tech, I know that the UK-US special relationship will continue to prosper on both sides of the Atlantic for years to come.
Particularly that relationship with my Foreign Secretary and you. Christopher Hope, our political editor, let's get a comment on that and where this leaves David Lammy.
Well, we're yet to hear from the Foreign Secretary, Eamonn and Isabel. Yeah, but I think it's interesting, isn't it, that Sir Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, has come out before he actually has won. He's not yet at the 270 mark in the States, is he? Is he Donald Trump? But he's so keen to make sure that I'm here, I'm your guy, we've got this special relationship, let's keep going with it. Almost building on that dinner they had back in September and those remarks that he told me for GB News, Donald Trump saying, of course, he's a very nice guy about Keir Starmer. They'll cling to those words, those public remarks about our Prime Minister as though they are really valuable now as they try and work out how to navigate a path with a Trump administration for the next 4 years. It's not what they were planning. Of course, 100 staffers went over to America to campaign for his rival, Kamala Harris, as a start of a legal action over the far left Labour Party's involvement, to quote the Trump campaign. So there's work to be done, building to be done. No word yet from David Lammy, but clearly the special relationship is what matters, and that's why that's been stressed in that statement.
What do you make of the comments that Trump made pre the result that we have so far about how he would be imposing tariffs on imports to the United States? Because there is concern that that will affect our economy here. So Keir Starmer sort of glossing over that in his comments there, perhaps hoping to cosy up. You know, what are the chances that he will go through with that and we could all feel that?
I think Trump will want to start in a big way. He has started his previous administration back in 2016. I was out there for his inauguration in January 2017. I mean, he does start with big statements of intent, notably on immigration. But I think on a wider point, Isabel, he is more favourable to the UK. He was trying to get a trade deal going back in the day, back in 2016, as Brexit was happening. And so they tried to get a relationship going with Theresa May when she was Prime Minister. So I think there's a chance that we'll get more of a favourable look now from Washington. I will remember, though, that, I mean, he will want to maybe have a say over who is the next UK ambassador to Washington. Haven't yet been appointed to succeed Dame Karen Pierce. He had a say over the last one, didn't he? And so he didn't fancy his remarks previously, although that was Boris Johnson, but his remarks previously may dictate who fills that vital role, that bridge between Washington and London in America.
Who might take up that post? I only ask you because I've had commentators in the past predicting that perhaps Lady Sarah Elliott might be one of those who gets that post.
Yeah, I mean, Peter Mandelson, someone who can stand up to the Trump regime has been raised, but it's a really important role, that someone who can talk to Trump, understands him, knows how he works. You never know. If I was Whitehall, I would put quiet feelers out to Nigel Farage and ask him who is the kind of person who might work well with Trump. The most important thing now is that special relationship, embedding it. We've got a left-wing Labour government in this country, a right-wing government in America. It has worked before, don't forget. George W. Bush was good, got quite close, didn't he, to Tony Blair back in the late 90s and early 2000s. It can happen. That relationship does matter more than anything else. But maybe Farage right now is the person who can fix the deal on who should be the next UK ambassador to Washington.
Right, well, that brings up a very interesting point. America's relationship, Donald Trump, the president's relationship with Nigel Farage and vice versa. Does that throw up any complications for relations between the two countries? And just how important do you see that as?
Well, the relationship between Nigel Farage and Donald Trump, or the UK and Donald Trump, I mean, they're both vital. I think that Nigel Farage isn't someone, he is the Trump whisperer in chief. I mean, he is someone who can pick the phone up. He had a shout out 2 days ago at the final rally. Donald Trump admired the MAGA, the Make America Great Again cap that Trump has made in the Reform UK colours. I think that's interesting. We told us that last night on the Farage programme on GBNews. I mean, there's no question there's a connection there. Trump likes Farage, Farage likes Trump, and that special relationship there between those two men could drive the relationship internationally. I think Trump should be saying, I can help you fix this relationship. Yeah. But to give Farage a veto or a say over that role is interesting, to say the least, certainly the Labour left.
Hold that thought, Christopher Hope. Thanks very much, because we are expecting to check in with Nigel Farage, who we saw pictures of not very long ago, joining us from Florida. So don't move a muscle.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M6 in Staffordshire, the inside lanes closed southbound between junctions 11 and 10 from Cannock to the Walsall and Wolverhampton turn after a lorry broke down, causing queues. On the M4 in Neath Port Talbot, the inside lanes closed westbound where a lorry's broken down between junctions 43 and 44 from Llandarcy to Llansamlet, causing delays from junction 42. At the Earlswood roundabout in Somerset, the A370 is closed each way at Flax Bourton after an accident. Chiltern rail services remain suspended between Great Missenden and Marylebone Station in London. Train services are also suspended between Reading and Bedwyn because of an incident. Taxis replace trains, and there's also a shuttle coach service. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour. Westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in West Sussex, the A29 is blocked each way by an accident on Berry Hill, causing queues.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to the programme. It's 8:33. Let's cross live to the United States of America, where we can check in with Nigel Farage, who joins us live from Florida. Good morning to you. We spotted you there in the crowd in West Palm Beach, where Donald Trump was making that acceptance speech, looking rather pleased. How are you feeling?
Oh, delighted. Absolutely delighted. This is what I thought it would happen, but it's happened on a really big scale. The swings towards Trump are truly remarkable, so I'm thrilled by that. On a human level, for him, this is the most incredible political comeback we've seen in modern times. I mean, no one since Churchill has gone from the top to the bottom and come back again in quite this way. That's remarkable. And just the number of Americans just saying, hey, you know what, we've had enough of the direction our government's going in. We want somebody who gives strong leadership. No, it's a truly, whether you like him or not, he is a remarkable human being. It's a great achievement, and I'm very proud to call him a friend of mine.
But it wasn't predicted, Nigel. You look back to just yesterday, and no one was saying this was going to happen. Why has it happened? Why did it happen?
Well, actually, Eamonn, to be fair, on GB News at 7 o'clock live last night, I said loudly and clearly, Trump will win. So there were one or two of us who did see, where it was going to go. I just think that the silent majority in America, and by the way, we have the same silent majority in our country, they've just had enough of big governments who tax too much, who make people's lives difficult, who overregulate them, who pursue policies on energy, for example, that put people's bills up. All of those things are there. But the crucial one, to add to that, is the border. You know, over 10 million illegal immigrants have come into the United States of America since Joe Biden was president. And people are seeing in their cities increases in crime, gang crime in particular, huge problems. And what they want is somebody to provide a solution.
My memory is long enough to go back to the midterms when you were predicting the red wave then, and it didn't materialise. Clearly, the tide has now turned. I wonder in the post-mortem how much of this will be blamed, perhaps, on the failures of Joe Biden in all of this, that his legacy has handed this to Trump as well.
Well, of course. I mean, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, which led to the Taliban taking back over after 20 years of much treasure and much blood that was shed by us and the Americans and one or two others, clearly part of the failure. The fact the world is closer to a conflagration than it's been at any point in any of our lifetimes when we put on Joe Biden. The fact that he changed America's energy policy and started reducing effectively the amount of their own oil and gas they were producing in the rush for renewables. Yes, a lot is to be blamed on Biden, but it's also this centre-left big government agenda, as I say, that overtaxes, overspends, and just gets everything wrong.
Nigel, you were talking about America's image changing there. What about the president's image? What about Donald Trump's image? Do you think we'll see a different Donald Trump, a more conciliatory Donald Trump in any way, a man who's got less to prove? He knows what he's got to do, but he's got less to prove.
Yeah. Do you know, over the last 48 hours, I've seen him a couple of times. He has been calm in the most extraordinary way. He, over the last few weeks, has shown humour in public we've not seen before. I've seen it in private. We've seen it in public. He is now an unencumbered president who genuinely wants to make change for the good. And I think the really interesting thing that we'll see is he will attack the bureaucratic administrative state that has got bigger and bigger and bigger, you know, Washington, inside the Beltway. And I think Elon Musk will come in, and just as in Twitter, he sacked vast numbers of people and yet still kept the business going. We're going to see that happening right throughout the public sector in America. And I very much hope that proves to be a blueprint for what we need to do in our country.
Yeah, what about this result then for us here in the United Kingdom? In the last 15 minutes or so, we've heard from the Prime Minister congratulating congratulating Trump, but also talking about, you know, being the closest of allies and standing shoulder to shoulder. I mean, do you see that being possible, given how politically different these two administrations are and some of the language that's been expressed by the Foreign Secretary towards the new president-elect?
No, that's a fair point. I mean, clearly, politically, Keir Starmer and Donald Trump are a long way apart. Things that have been said in the past by David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, let alone Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, are very, very unhelpful. And sending over 100 Labour staffers to campaign for Kamala Harris was diplomatically a very stupid thing for a newly elected Labour government to do. But the thing to remember that's important, Trump is instinctively very, very pro-British. This is the most pro-British president we've had for decades. You know, his mum was a Scot and he loved the Queen, and all of those things actually matter. He has expressed to me over the years many times his desire to do a genuine free trade deal with the United Kingdom
Nigel,
that actually would benefit both sides of that equation.
One word
That's
for
an
you,
opportunity.
though. Tariffs. I mean, are we going to be exempt from those?
Well, yes, and that's our opportunity. I mean, don't forget the European Union themselves are putting big tariffs on Chinese cars and batteries and all of those things. No, we have a massive opportunity here. Now, clearly, what the Labour government need to do is to roll out the red carpet, to be welcoming, maybe to be just ever so slightly apologetic, you know, for sending people over to back Kamala Harris during the campaign. There is a fantastic opportunity ahead of us, and all I can say, as somebody who was a personal friend of his, has backed him all the way through his career. You know, if I can help broker a little bit of peace between the two, I'd be very happy to help.
OK, you're available for that. Nigel, what was the atmosphere like in that hall? I mean, we've talked about the politics there of things, but basically, how would you describe the feeling when he walked out on stage there and made that acceptance speech?
Ecstatic. Absolutely ecstatic. It was a level of energy and optimism that I've rarely seen in my life. It was really a very, very special moment and a very historic moment. I mean, you know, nobody for over a century has lost a presidency and regained it. And everybody thought it was unthinkable. And remember all the court cases they put him through, all the terrible things they've said about him. He is just the most resilient human being. And I think that crowd were full of admiration for him as a man.
What about those people then who, in America, but I suppose in the United Kingdom, who will be concerned by that, by the number of legal cases that will now be discarded? You know, in American law, nobody is supposed to be above it, the president included. He's expected to pardon himself. You know, a lot of conservatives in America themselves, you know, believe in the rule of law. What would you say to those people who are concerned by this news today?
Well, the rule of law is very important, but the abuse of law is equally important. And I mean, the court case that was taken against the Trump organization in New York, quite unlike anything that had ever been seen before in the entire history of American legal law. This was a political attempt to get him. The great American public saw through at the middle of that. I don't expect him for a moment to be as vindictive against them as they were against him. He's going to be too busy getting on with the job of governing. And frankly, you know, I mean, the most upset people tonight are mainstream media. People like Emily Maitlis swearing, you know, CNN virtually in tears. Mainstream media don't like the result of this. They can't accept this. And I understand there's a demonstration planned in London tomorrow night by a bizarre left-wing organisation called Stand Up to Racism, who clearly don't even like democracy. He's won this fair and square. He's won this big. He's won not just the electoral college votes, but he's won the popular vote as well. And yet some people just can't seem to accept it. Well, get used to it, because it's happened in America, and it's going to start happening all over Europe and the rest of the world too.
Well, we've got used to you over the past 24 hours. Updated your programme last night. It's what, 20 to 4, is it, in the morning?
20 to 4, yeah.
Yeah, really appreciate you taking time out, Nigel, and speaking to us this morning. And I hope you get some catch-up sleep at some stage. Thanks very much indeed.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Right, stay with us. Lots more coming your way. We will be getting more expert analysis of the night from our panel. Stay tuned to GB News Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, let's speak now to Sales Director at Savills for Quinta Properties, Raquel Santos, who is live for us in Portugal. Raquel, good to see you this morning. Why are all these celebrities flocking to Portugal all of a sudden?
Yeah, I guess it's just because of basically the great lifestyle that we have, security, you know. Portugal has kind of been a hidden, tucked away gem for quite a while that people didn't realize existed. And with the international flights that have, with the American flights coming in, it's kind of been put back on the map as a country that's worth visiting and worth investing in due to the secure investments that we offer in real estate.
Raquel, is it anything to do with tax rates? Because I think capital gains tax is, I think if it's over a certain amount, you pay half of your rate, which is 28%. Capital gains on shares and cryptocurrencies is 0. Is it anything to do with that? Because over here in the UK, big storm at the moment about millionaires apparently leaving in exodus because of the mooted increases in taxes in just a few weeks.
Yes, so obviously the alterations that are happening with the UK in terms of the tax that's being implemented on the capital gains, as you mentioned, we've definitely noticed has become a big drive, mostly on the vendor side as well, who are looking to sell because they don't want to be hit, with these higher capital gains, which is close to coming into effect.
Raquel, have you noticed then millionaires, high net worth people from the UK getting in touch with you looking to relocate?
Definitely. It's for multiple reasons, obviously, the changes that are due to come into place, obviously, and Portugal just seems to be a safe option always when things do kind of change. People opt to come into Portugal because we're quite steady, we're quite stable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 8:46. The very latest figures in at the moment are 266 seats in the Electoral College to Donald Trump and 205 to Kamala Harris. It doesn't really change things, as we heard from Donald in the last hour.
You said the numbers were changing there.
Well, we're getting very close to Wisconsin declaring that Donald Trump is 110,000 votes ahead in Wisconsin, and there's only 150,000 votes left to count. So it's getting very close to being official.
OK, got you.
Right, OK, well, let's get some reaction from from the Republican, and that's been a long night in the House. That is, of course, Chair of Republicans overseas, Greg Swenson. You're in a jubilant mood despite the lack of sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great day. Great day for the country. A great day for the world, ultimately.
What did you make of what Nigel Farage had to say there?
Yeah, I think he hit a lot of great points. And I think, granted, I know they're great friends, but Nigel has a real intimate understanding and knowledge of Trump and how he thinks. And I think this is going to be great economically, first of all, great for the country, great for, and even globally, considering the tariffs are a risk, and I don't dispute that. So I think it remains to be seen what really happens there. But he mentioned the relationship. This is an opportunity, and I agree with Nigel there. Nigel has Trump has a fondness for the UK. There's no doubt about that.
Laurie Laird, what is that relationship? I mean, we always hear about this special relationship. I'm not sure it actually really exists, but you, as an American, you tell me, the Prime Minister, he put out the statement, he said, from growth and security to innovation and tech, I know that the UK-US special relationship will continue to prosper on both sides for years to come.
A long, slightly flowery statement. And again, before the election's been declared, I was a little surprised about the timing there. I don't know if Keir Starmer is trying to make amends for that slight controversy with a number of Labour people went over and volunteered for the my God, not enough sleep. Democrats volunteered for the Democrats. I don't know if we're trying to mend fences there. But, get back to that economic question. Nigel Farage hinted that there could be a free trade agreement. Donald Trump isn't a free trader. I mean, I think that's a lovely, touching, quaint thought. And I think if there were some kind of trade agreement, there may be a lot of things that Donald Trump in the U.S. would demand. People here don't
What's
really
in it for
want.
him? Yeah.
Right, different agricultural standards. We remember the chlorinated chicken stories. Access to the NHS for more American private health care providers. These aren't things that voters here in the UK say that they want.
And you're nodding to that, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Never
hurdles. I mean, there's definitely hurdles, right? And so, but I think
it's not all rosy for us Brits, then.
Trump is really transactional, and as much as people argue that he's not a free trader, he is a free trader. He's a free and fair trader, and most importantly, a trade deal with the UK would be bilateral, which he really loves. He doesn't like multilateral deals. He doesn't like multilateral institutions in general. So I think if it's an opportunity to do a deal where the two economies, are the largest foreign direct investment, and in many ways, for the UK is punching above its weight as a trading partner as well. So the fact that both countries are the largest FDI, I think, is important to keep in mind.
Thomas Gift, how would you see that relationship as a political scientist there? I mean, does anything change? Is anything likely to change? Is it more beneficial to the States than it is to us? Or how do you see it?
Well, I think I have to say that Britain spends a lot more time thinking about the United States than the other way around. And that's probably the main takeaway. Yeah. I think it may be somewhat of a tense relationship dealing with the Labour government here. A lot of, Trump's first term, his interactions with the UK were built on kind of a personal rapport that he had with Boris Johnson. I don't think that exists now.
Yeah, interesting you should mention that relationship in the last few seconds. Foreign Secretary David Lammy has made his congratulations public. He said the UK has no greater friend than the US, with the special relationship being cherished on both sides of the Atlantic for more than 80 years. We look forward to working with you and JD Vance.
We look forward to working with the
years ahead,
as he called him.
Yeah, well, of course, in 2017, he did make those comments. No mention of that this morning. As he said in his comment there, cherished on both sides, you're hinting that it isn't perhaps as cherished. What do you think British people will make of the idea of chlorinated chicken and access to the NHS under this free trade agreement?
Well, there's the British attitudes to free trade are not what they were, say, back in the 19th century, that there is more resistance, and that post-Brexit the government put in a lot of free trade restrictions on agriculture and so on, some of which were supported by the Farmers Union but had some support from the public as well. So it's not an easy road actually for either side to follow for a free trade agreement.
But Laurie, are we better in a Trump relationship or a Harris relationship? Depending on what way that could have gone.
I think it depends on who's leading the UK here, or who's leading the initiative. It's hard to see Keir Starmer and Donald Trump as natural allies. And remember back after Donald Trump was elected the first time, I remember Emmanuel Macron trotting off to try and be the Trump whisperer, and videos of the two of them planting trees together. That relationship lasted about 15 minutes, and ideologically, they're a lot closer than Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. I just don't see a lot of chemistry between the two men. The question, if Nigel Farage can manage that relationship, if he's allowed by this government to manage it, there might be something there. As you said, Greg, Donald Trump likes personal relationships. He's not an alliance kind of guy. He likes to boast of his friends in high places all over the world. That's the way to get him. Whether Farage will have that latitude is a big question.
I sort of agree with Thomas. I think it shouts out that Britain needs America more than America needs Britain.
Well, I mean, the structure of the economy, about a third of the economy here is trade. The U.S. is a much more closed economy. Only about 15% of the economy is trade. So a medium-sized open economy like Britain needs as many trading partners as it can get.
And Laurie, let's not forget the economic impact of the elephant in the room, which is Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky in the last half hour offering his congratulations to Trump. But what will Trump presidency mean for Ukraine, and what could that mean in turn for us in terms of the kind of support, financial, and indeed in terms of refugees potentially mean?
I think we need to look at the makeup of the legislature, and we're getting news that the Republicans are likely to take control of the Senate. That's where you see the purse strings for this kind of aid, and I think with the Republican president, assuming that this bears out as we assume it does, with a Republican Senate, I think it'll be a lot more difficult for requests for aid for the Ukraine to get through.
Which means we would have to pick up the tab?
It depends on what we want to see. I mean, we're certainly getting a sense of Ukraine fatigue all over the world. Can Donald Trump hasten an end to this? I mean, it's possible. I mean, Ukraine can only fight so far. The world is running out of munitions. It's, we're getting to a stalemate situation.
All right, Laurie Laird, thank you very much, and to you, Greg Swenson, and indeed to our panel this morning who've been joining us, Martin Baxter and Dr. Thomas Giff. For now, we say thank you to all of you as we reflect on what has been, frankly, an extraordinary night. None of us predicted, including the pollsters, with Donald Trump just moments away from officially being declared the next president-elect of America.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a misty, in some places foggy start to the day, and it stays grey and gloomy for most of us, but northern Scotland faring well for any brighter or perhaps sunnier spells heading into the afternoon. Also a few cloud breaks here and there, North Wales, northern England, likely to see them come and go. But for much of the UK, it's low cloud, it's mist, and in some places fog lasting all day. Where the fog does last all day, it's going to feel cold. But where we get some brighter spells, particularly northern Scotland, there's the potential for temperatures up to mid or even high teens. So it's a pleasant afternoon for northern Scotland, some decent sunny skies, and it's going to feel warm in the sunshine as the wind moves over the mountains and comes down on the other side, warmer and drier. Across the mountains, though, a lot of low cloud, mist, fog, drizzle. Some drizzle as well for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, West Wales. One or two spots for the south coast. However, for the vast majority, we've got relatively benign, slow-moving weather patterns in place at the moment. High pressure sitting to the east, a southerly airflow. That's going to pick up some strength overnight, and it will certainly be blustery for western Scotland. And it's going to turn increasingly damp in the far west across parts of Northern Ireland later. But for many, it's another quiet one as we start off Thursday. Once again, it's low cloud, mist and fog from the word go. Some tricky driving conditions in the south, for example, where we've got some stubborn fog patches. And the sun being weak at this time of year means that the fog will be slow to clear, and in some places it could last all day. Best place for sunshine, once again, northern Scotland. Also the best place for warmth, 16, 17 Celsius possible here, 13 or 14 elsewhere.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good luck.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M4 in Leith Port Talbot, there are long westbound delays after a lorry broke down earlier between junctions 43 and 44 from Llandarcy to Llansamlet. It's taking around 40 minutes in queues towards there. From junction 40 at Port Talbot, there are eastbound delays past the scene too. In Somerset, the A370 is closed in both directions at Flax Bourton after an accident. Chiltern rail services remain suspended between Great Missenden and Marylebone Station in London. buses replacing trains between Reading and Bedwyn after an incident. On the M4 in Berkshire, the inside lanes closed westbound where a car's broken down between junctions 8, 9 and 10 from Maidenhead to Wokingham, causing delays. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking around 20 minutes in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in West Sussex, the A29 is blocked each way by an accident on Berry Hill, causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Donald Trump declares victory as he leads the race to the White House.
The former president on the brink of becoming officially president again. He's got 266 Electoral College votes. He needs 270 to be officially declared the winner.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president.
Well, Kamala Harris trails on 205 votes and is yet to address her supporters as she comes to terms with her loss.
Well, joyous. Joyous. I mean, this is the most incredible political comeback in any of our lifetimes.
Thoughts there of Nigel Farage, who we've been joined throughout the show. He's live in Florida. He's been with the Trump camp and he's a close ally of him and Elon Musk at Mar-a-Lago.
But what does all this mean for us here in the UK? We'll be bringing you all the latest reaction with your thoughts and opinions thrown in as well.
Plenty of mist and murk around this morning. Is it going to stick around all day or will there be any brighter weather on the way? Full forecast from me coming up soon.
Very good to see you. Very good to have you on board, on television, on radio with us this morning on this Declaration Day. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster and this is GB News Breakfast.
Just we're reflecting the results so far in America, the presidential election. Donald Trump on the brink of, again, becoming a president of the United States. He will have been 45th president and 47th president.
And it really has been, frankly, a dramatic evening of twists and turns. But just around an hour ago, Trump was addressing his supporters in West Palm Beach. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
Now, during that speech, the President-to-be went on and thanked the American people. He listed his political goals as well.
We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Well, we are back with our expert panel for you, the CEO and founder of Electoral Calculus, Martin Baxter, as well as Dr. Thomas Gift, who's the founding director of UCL Centre on US Politics, as well as the political commentator on all things America, Laurie Laird, and regular on the show. Good morning and welcome back to all of you. Can I start with you, please, Martin Baxter, because we're waiting on Wisconsin, worth 10 Electoral College votes. They're very close to declaring there. That could mean we can finally officially declare Trump as the winner, because people might be confused. How come we're seeing Trump doing an acceptance speech yet and it's not all official? So just tell us where we're at.
Well, it's very close. So there's 7 swing states. Trump has won 3 of them, including Pennsylvania, which is the bellwether, which ought to determine the election. There's 4 still to declare. If Trump wins any one of those, then he is officially the president. Kamala Harris needs to win all 4 of those. Trump is leading in all 4 of those states. Wisconsin is the one closest to declaring. On the latest figures, Trump was 100,000 votes ahead in Wisconsin, and there were about 120,000 votes left to count. So they would almost all have to break for Kamala Harris for her to win Wisconsin. But remember, things like that did happen back in 2020.
Really, on this narrower margin?
Yes, there was an incredibly large proportion of Democratic votes in the late counting ones, which tend to come from the cities and the postal ballots. So it's not over till it's over, but it's looking very, very strong for Trump.
Yeah. And why would it be over for Kamala Harris then? What did she get wrong, Thomas? Where did it go wrong for her big time? What were the areas?
Well, there will be a lot of second guessing among the Trump campaign about what went wrong, what could have been done differently. At the end of the day, I think it wasn't the small stuff, the strategy. It wasn't about failing to choose maybe a different vice president like Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. It wasn't about failing to court the Arab American vote. It was really about the big macro issues that drive votes: the economy, cost of living, immigration, Afghanistan, et cetera.
Did she get those wrong, or did she just not talk about them?
Well, part of the problem is that Kamala Harris has flip-flopped a lot. She says that her values haven't changed, but her policy prescriptions certainly have changed. She used to be against fracking, which was a big issue in Pennsylvania. Now she's not. She used to be for looser immigration policies. Now she's not. She used to be for Medicare for all. Now she's not. And so I think a lot of Americans just were trying to figure out exactly what she represented as a political candidate.
And Martin, just looking at the maths, I mean, when we think of his win in 2016, yes, he won on the Electoral College 304 votes there to Clinton's 227, but Hillary Clinton actually beat him in the individual votes by some 3 million. Not so today. Not only does it look like he's going to take the Electoral College with a comfortable margin, he's also leading in the popular vote by around 5 million. Plus, he's taken Congress and won over the authority of the Senate.
Yeah, taking the House and the Senate and winning the popular vote. So it couldn't really be any better. Nigel Farage is completely right when he says this is one of the greatest political comebacks that we've seen in a long time.
I'm interested in how that works, though, because in America, as a president, you can only ever have 2 terms in office. Now, he's split this up. Obviously, we've had Biden in between, but usually the second term is described as the lame duck presidency, when you know you can't stand again, you kind of don't really have as much power as in your first term. What happens when you've had this kind of hiatus in between? Can he still affect policy changes, and does the fact that he's got Congress make that a heck of a lot easier for him?
Really good question, because even when Donald Trump was not in office over the past 4 years, he was still, I think, the most influential Republican voice. Now, he had something to run toward, but there was a bipartisan immigration bill hammered out earlier this year, and Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, Republican, fairly closely aligned with Trump, never put it to a vote. Trump did not want to see a victory on such an emotive issue on Biden's watch. So even as a private citizen, Donald Trump really held all the power in the Republican Party.
But will he have a lame duck presidency this time around, or will it be very different from a normal second term for a president?
Sometimes a lame duck is liberated, right, and can make decisions that are not necessarily so popular. It sort of depends on whether that lame duck, what they want to bequeath their successors.
I think he will see himself liberated. I think he'll say, I've got 4 years to do everything that I'm supposed to do. Let's get off and running. Let's do it.
Some of the things he wants to do. I mean, I'm a little bit of an economics geek. I do have concerns about his threat to put tariffs on imports. 10, 20% from the EU, higher from China. A lot of his aides say, no, this is just a negotiating ploy. It'll be fine when we sit down. But tariffs, there's a body of economic evidence that shows that tariffs are inflationary. And if you're coming in saying, I'm going to solve the inflation problem, this isn't a great way to go about it.
Well, Nigel Farage seemed, optimistic, Dr. Thomas, that we may well be able to secure some sort of free trade agreement. Now, in the UK, since the budget last week, there's been lots of talk about our farmers here in the UK feeling pretty aggrieved in light of those inheritance tax changes. Are farmers right to feel concerned if there is some sort of quid pro quo when it comes to a free trade deal with America? What could that mean in terms of those threats of chlorinated chicken, for example, that we've heard so much about? Should they be worried today?
Possibly. I mean, we didn't get a free trade deal during the first Trump administration. I don't think that it's going to be a very high priority in the second administration. When it comes to tariffs, certainly Americans will feel the heat more than anything else. A lot of estimates suggest that it's essentially a tax of about $4,000 US, particularly on middle-income families, because these costs are eventually passed on to the consumers.
And the other aspect that you were describing to us, Laurie, that people might be worried about in terms of any sort of free trade agreement, which, may not materialise, would be on our precious NHS, which, again, in the headlines a lot.
The term free trade agreement is a little bit of a misnomer. There won't be any sort of agreement where everything just crosses borders without any sort of, impediment or any kind of tariff. There will be limits on what goes. I mean, even when we were in a free trade agreement with the EU, there were still barriers to services. Goods cross borders quite easily, services not so much. So I don't know if there's anything like a proper free trade deal. There'll be concessions that have to be made on both sides.
Guys, why have we not heard from Kamala Harris yet, whether she's won or lost? Why wouldn't she do the, I would think, gracious thing and say a few words?
I suspect she's waiting until it's certain. There's no mileage for her in conceding before she has to, really. So once Wisconsin comes along, if it comes along, then we may hear from her. But for the moment, I think she's playing it safe.
Are you surprised with the speed that we've got these results today? Because there was lots of noise, wasn't there, that this was going to be days, that there might be recounts.
It's a welcome change, isn't it? I think people like the idea that they turn up and vote and the result comes out fairly quickly and you know where you are. And that didn't happen in America 4 years ago. It didn't happen, say, with the hanging chads with Bush and Gore. But obviously, in the British election, it happened super fast overnight in July. So I think it's probably good for democracy that it happens this way.
We were sort of commenting, speculating about what next for Kamala Harris. Here's a woman who's had a hugely prominent career in the law, in California as well, then as a senator. She gave that up to become vice president, and now it looks as though she's lost her bid to become president. Presumably she'll retreat into the shadows, but what's next for her?
She has been the heir apparent, of course, for Joe Biden ever since she was selected as the vice presidential nominee back in 2020. But I really think that she does kind of fade into the backdrop right now. There are a lot of young, up-and-coming Democrats who will certainly be vying for the nomination in 2028. That includes Gavin Newsom, that includes Gretchen Whitmer, Wes Moore of Maryland as well. So I think it will be kind of hard for her to politically recover from not just a loss, but a very substantial loss.
Right, what does everybody think? Looking at her there on stage and this waving and this smiling, nothing against the woman, except to me, all of this was false as, it's choreographed. She did the same routine every single appearance, waving at people who weren't there.
Trump doesn't.
Waving. No, he doesn't do it the same way.
Oh, come on.
He doesn't do it the same way. That could be choreographed, but
he's added a golf swing now, I noticed.
Yeah, but it's a different thing. With her, it comes out, and it's all false. I just think, go away. It just really doesn't work for me. What do you think about the way she presented herself?
I went through this campaign incredibly frustrated that we never heard her talk about policy. She was pretty strong on reproductive rights, convincing there, passionate. But on everything else, she pivoted. I thought the press gave her a pretty easy time.
Yeah, Laurie, it worked for Keir Starmer. I mean, he did that whole...
Isabel,
that was his playbook. Say nothing, get into power, power, do your thing.
And
she
I'm
tried
torn
that.
about this. You know, Hillary Clinton had policy down. Elizabeth Warren, who has tried to run for president a number of times, you know, her catch line was, I've got a plan for that. People would ask her for dating advice, and she would say, I have a plan for that. Maybe Americans don't want, you know, strong policy detail. And I've been torn with this, covering the election so far. But personally, I found it very frustrating. I don't know if people wanted to hear more, whether she wasn't convincing, the flip-flopping, whether that was a problem. I think one of the problems, though, is she never seemed to have the confidence of Joe Biden. She should have been. Succession planning was poor here.
I think it was just so late in the day, wasn't it? You know, it was end of August before she was thrust into this position.
She should have been
massively behind in the polls.
Though. The oldest president ever elected. We should have known a lot more about her before August.
What do you think? Yeah. What do you think of how she presented herself, how she came across?
Ultimately, I don't think that this is about Kamala Harris as much as it is about Donald Trump.
Really?
I think that this election was completely a referendum on whether Americans wanted to go back to 2017 to 2021. And I think that you could have inserted almost any generic Democrat on the ticket, and they would have fared about as well as Kamala Harris.
Were you saying that yesterday?
Well, I thought that it was going to be closer. I think no one has a crystal ball here. And still, you know, the popular vote will end up being very close. But since all of these swing states are correlated, it's looking like more of a landslide.
I mean, it's 5 million in it.
Slightly on that,
go on, Martin.
If the Democrats had if Joe Biden had retired earlier and they'd run a proper primary race and got a stronger candidate, and I think there were stronger candidates than Kamala Harris, then the result could have been different.
Can I ask you about J.D. Vance? We saw him on stage in Florida just over an hour ago alongside Trump. He said, he turned out to be a good decision, didn't he? Are they going to have a more successful partnership, do you think, than he did with his previous running mate, with Mike Pence, who he's ended up, you know, having a massive falling out with?
I think J.D. Vance has many reasons to feel very happy with how tonight has gone, that he is Vice President of the United States with the...
You think he should feel happy, or we should feel happy,
J.D. Vance should feel happy.
Well, of course, he'll be thrilled.
But he should feel happy for a couple of reasons. First of all, he's going to be Vice President to a president who is constitutionally limited to step down in 4 years' time. And J.D. Vance...
So he's the heir apparent there.
He is going to be in a pole position, strong place, plus... The fact that they've won the popular vote and are winning on the issues in America has got to make him feel very confident.
And do you see him as the brains behind all of this, really? He's your policy man when it comes to the details. I mean, that's almost Trump gave on that impression. There's no greater mind in America. Perhaps you might let Elon Musk take that position. But, you know, it seems as though he's the guy with the sort of cerebral approach to all of this.
He's an Ivy League graduate. He can speak articulately. He is a very, very effective surrogate for Donald Trump, no doubt. And I think that he will have him out there front and center, making the case for tax cuts.
On CNN.
On CNN, on all the liberal media, for sure.
Okay. Gentlemen and Laurie, thank you very much indeed. Good hearing from you on this pretty historic day. We'll just break off. We'll give you a chance to relax, unwind, and maybe win yourself over 25 grand in our great Christmas giveaway. Ho, ho, ho.
You could win Christmas on us this year.
Well, in the USA, it's all over, but the fat lady still hasn't sang yet. She might be on
stage. Who are you referring to?
Well, when it's officially declared that Donald Trump has become the 47th president of the United States, and that'll happen probably during Bev and Andrew's show, and we'll be chatting to them right after the short break.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
Let's talk to Roger Kiska, who is the legal counsel for the Christian Legal Centre. Good morning, Roger. I'm really I'm really impressed, actually, by the fact that this school is taking the government to court on this. It's the only way we might get any sort of change. How important is it for these families who find a local religious school to keep their children in there? And are they all billionaires awash with cash?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, this is about the fundamental right to educate your children in conformity with your religious beliefs. That's a right guaranteed under the European Convention of Human Rights. And any legislation, primary or secondary, has to be compatible with that convention. And so the basis of our claim is that this is an unfair tax because every country in the EU, first of all, it was by directive that there was no VAT on private education. In the Council of Europe, which is 56 member states, there are no other countries which put VAT on private education. This is an attack on school choice, and this is an attack on honest, hardworking parents who simply want to have their kids educated in a manner which they want them to be raised by themselves. And that, in a democratic nation, should be a given.
Obviously, Labour's logic being, just to provide some balance here, Roger, is that families who send their children to private school can afford the extra 20%, whether they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children at school. They should be able to afford it, and the schools should be able to absorb some of that cost. And that money will be spent in the state sector. Can you see the logic behind the reasoning?
To be honest, I can't, because not every school is Eton. Not every parent has the means to send their children to private education.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, what a day it has been, and it isn't over yet. Andrew and Bev with Britain's Newsroom, talking about America.
Walking on air this morning, walking on air. We are so... I'm so happy about this, I can't lie. I used to do phone-ins on a different channel where I used to think that Donald Trump was the Antichrist, and now I think he is potentially the saviour of the whole planet.
Is he the saviour of the whole planet, or is he compared to Kamala Harris?
Oh, no, I think he's absolutely... I think more, for me as well, it's about the team that he's surrounded himself with as well. It's about J.D. Vance, it's about Robert Kennedy, it's about Tulsi Gabbard, it's about all these brilliant, principled people who have a really clear idea about the individual versus the state and that relationship, and that the individual should be trusted to make decisions
Do you think he's changed, Bev? Do you think
Massively.
Yeah?
I do. I think his speech this morning, he was quite humble, actually. There was a time when he would have been all about him. He brought in his family. He talked about all of the people he's brought to help him there. He got some of the people who've run his campaign. I think he's much more humble, and I think that makes for a better Donald Trump.
He's no Reagan, though, is he?
No, but you know, what a disaster for the Democrats.
Yeah.
They stuck around with that useless old Biden for far too long, completely incapable of doing the job. Cognitive issues that should have been resolved 18 months ago. She was a terrible candidate. Who could vote for Kamala Harris? Wishy-washy liberal.
But what were the party doing?
Didn't believe in anything.
Why was there nobody in authority that said, Joe, enough's enough, mate, that's it?
The First Lady should have said.
Because I think they knew that she probably was going to be worse than him, which it transpires. She actually was, remarkably.
Yeah.
I think it's such an exciting day. We're going to be announcing it, hopefully, the official.
But also, what another disaster for the polling companies, who were all calling it.
Much more on a knife edge, according to the polls, whereas this is a home run.
He's also won the Senate.
Yeah.
So he's got control of both houses, so he can govern. His hands are not tied. Maybe he can even sort out gun control.
He's promising such enormous change, though. So those of us who are watching him and his team really carefully have very high expectations. And he's going to have to come out of the blocks sprinting. He's going to have to make changes really quickly. So there is a lot of pressure on his shoulders now. He's got more to do now than he did last time he was president.
But he's got 2 months to prepare, because that's the civilised thing about America.
I think that's very civilised. I agree with you. Yeah.
2 months to prepare, get his team in place, get his policies worked up properly, and it's not barbaric way we do it here when you're out a few hours later.
And the massive difference, what did he talk about on stage this morning? He talked about family underpinning everything, and that's what we've been lacking in so much of the political narrative.
That and Elon Musk's rocket.
He talked about Elon Musk's rocket.
And his wife's book.
I have heard him do that story a few times. And his wife's book, which, you know, is kind of...
And
how God saved him.
Mrs. Trump looked really, genuinely happy.
Oh, someone else said the opposite. She was furious to be going back to Washington.
No, she looked shell-shocked in 2016. She knows what to expect this time. She looked delighted. And it was a very genuine embrace.
We aren't literally going to open champagne, but we want to.
Guys, have a good show. Make the big announcement for us. We look forward to hearing it and seeing it.
Yeah, that's it from us. Have a great day. Up next, Andrew and Bev. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a misty, in some places foggy start to the day, and it stays grey and gloomy for most of us, but northern Scotland faring well for any brighter or perhaps sunnier spells heading into the afternoon. Also a few cloud breaks here and there, North Wales, Northern England, likely to see them come and go. But for much of the UK, it's low cloud, it's mist, and in some places, fog lasting all day. Where the fog does last all day, it's going to feel cold. But where we get some brighter spells, particularly northern Scotland, there's the potential for temperatures up to mid or even high teens. So it's a pleasant afternoon for northern Scotland, some decent sunny skies, and it's going to feel warm in the sunshine as the wind moves over the mountains and comes down on the other side, warmer and drier. Across the mountains, though, a lot of low cloud, mist, fog, drizzle. Some drizzle as well for Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, West Wales. 1 or 2 spots for the south coast. However, for the vast majority, we've got relatively benign, slow-moving weather patterns in place at the moment. High pressure sitting to the east, a southerly airflow. That's going to pick up some strength overnight, and it will certainly be blustery for western Scotland. And it's going to turn increasingly damp in the far west across parts of Northern Ireland later. But for many, it's another quiet one as we start off Thursday. Once again, it's low cloud, mist and fog from the word go. Some tricky driving conditions in the south, for example, where we've got some stubborn fog patches. And the sun being weak at this time of year means that the fog will be slow to clear, and in some places it could last all day. Best place for sunshine, once again, northern Scotland. Also the best place for warmth, 16, 17 Celsius possible here, 13 or 14 elsewhere.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In North Yorkshire, Boroughbridge Road in Knaresborough is closed each way off the A59, the High Street, after an accident. There are delays towards the closure and as you divert through Knaresborough. In Suffolk, the A134 is closed each way at Sicklesmere after an accident causing queues. In Somerset, the A370 is closed in both directions between Station Road and Nailsea turn-off at Flax-Bourton after an accident with queues towards there, not helped by roadworks nearby. Chiltern rail services remain suspended between Great Missenden and Marylebone Station in London. There's a reduced service between Aylesbury Vale Parkway and Great Missenden, and buses running between Great Missenden and Amersham to connect with other services there. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking 20 minutes in westbound queues approaching the M25, and in West Sussex, the A29 is blocked by an accident on Berry Hill causing queues. That's the latest.